All Reason No Logic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action. See you in game, Commanders. Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by All Reason No Logic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Or be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. All Reason No Logic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action. See you in game, Commanders. Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by All Reason No Logic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Or be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. All Reason No Logic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action. See you in game, Commanders. Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by All Reason No Logic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Or be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. All Reason No Logic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action. See you in game, Commanders. Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by All Reason No Logic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Will be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. AllReasonNoLogic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action. See you in game, Commanders. Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by AllReasonNoLogic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Will be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. AllReasonNoLogic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action.
And go.
Hey everyone, welcome to the official Beyond All Reason stream. I'm Twig, joined once again by Pradith and Tank Tom. Both are back from their romantic getaway. Sorry, I mean camping trip with the boys. Great to have you both back. Both back. And I hope the tents were cozy. We're All Reason No Logic, and today we're diving into another epic round of King of the Hill, our community Sunday event. The format is simple but brutal. A small team of kings start on top of the hill holding a central position with a bonus to resources and prime map control. They face off against a much larger group, the Horde. We call them the peasants to keep things royal. There's a 10-minute no rush to start the game off, followed by players unleashing their armies to take the hill by force. It's intense and one of our most enjoyable formats of Big Lobby Bar. Thanks for joining us, and we'll get into the action very shortly.
Twig, are you muted on your OBS?
No.
That's interesting, because Twitch chat is saying that you are, that it is not working on your side of things, and that they could hear you beforehand when we were supposed to be muted.
Yeah, something's happened. Something has happened.
Ah, good old technical issues.
Well, we're just getting started here. There's
good day, Jill in the chat. Thanks for joining us.
It just obviously devolted back to my other microphone.
No worries then.
Just after I did that nice little intro giving you guys shit.
Look,
that's right. I'm sure you'll do the same again.
I'm sure you'll do it many times. You're just jealous because you didn't get to go out in a dinghy and catch fish.
All right, just a mic check for those in Twitch.
Yeah, there we go. Uzi's picked up on everyone now, so it looks like we've fixed the problem. Thanks for hanging out with us for that one.
We'll get this one started.
Yes, let's get this one started.
Spell.
Looks like it's going to be a slightly smaller lobby to start this one off, with just a handful of players in Claymore, which is one of the different styles of King of the Hill, where we pit absolute mayhem against a handful of kings. The kings are all stuck in different places and have 2 peasants to deal with each. If they can win their lanes, they can spill out into the other teams, and if not, then the peasants will spill out and cripple the rest of the kings. Looks like we're heading on in, and we're going to start this one up.
I am curious if the main Twitch could have heard me then, because that's through your desktop audio, is it not?
So the main Twitch would have been able to hear, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So no dramas there. Alright, let's change scenes.
Let me...
No, not that one. That one. Looks like I don't have the chat in this one. Let's see if we can add that in.
Oh, we've got a 2 Chev King. Breaking our own rules. That's all right though. We'll see how they go.
Alrighty then. I think we're up and running with that now. Nope, that one. There we go. Let me select a com. I can't select the com right now. We'll see when we're in game, and if I need to adjust it, we will adjust it.
I reckon I might jump out into the other chat, and I'll see you on the other side.
No worries. We'll keep an eye on Tank Tom and Twig as they work their way through. One as a king, one as a peasant, I think. And see how it goes. So, for those of you joining us for the first time, the kings are all stuck in their little circles for the first 10 minutes. And then the peasants are stuck in their little starting areas for 10 minutes. We do rely on a bit of oh wow, that's different. Okay, I like it. We've just got the mods in the chat. The mods that are just taking over a little bit and giving us some free reign and changing things up so that it's much more clear who goes where. Very nice to have this feature available. I think this might be due to some of the extra lava commands and water commands that were added in recently, giving us much more control over this, and then letting it drop at that 10-minute mark. We do have it nice and calculated for the next maps in the series, but this one's still a little bit of testing, because we usually only get one of these in at the start of the night. After that, there's just too many people to make it viable. This is definitely going to restrict the peasants, though. They're going to be missing out on 2 mexes each. We'll see whether that makes a huge difference or not. Other rules, try not to build your defensive buildings in a way that they can be used offensively. So if you're going to be building some long-range artillery, just make sure they're not clipping into the other person's island. Similarly, try to keep within your triangle during the course of your initial engagements. Once you've either killed your king or killed your peasants, then make your way out as you see fit. Beyond that, we've turned air off. The kings have a plus 45% bonus because they're going to be up against the peasants, and they're going to be quite well outnumbered. Does look like one peasant has failed to join. That's why the countdown hasn't started up. I think the other big rule that is worth knowing is that we don't allow com bombing before that 15-minute mark, because it would be very, very easy to completely disrupt the game by doing that. If you're a com walking in with such small spaces, big problem for everyone. Duffy just being a bit of a bit of a troublemaker to start this one up for us. Does look like Bacon Dude does want to start in the acid, I would not recommend it, but that is up to you. Pretty sure that this is acid and not water, so it probably will burn up the comm as we go. Alright, does look like they've made it out of the way. We'll be interested to see if anyone tries to build a submersible, aquatic vehicle. So just building a building lab and then driving the aquatic one into it. See whether that works out. Yes, some of the mexes are covered. There we go. The water level has just been adjusted slightly to try and let them be out of the water. Does look like most of these are out of the water. Now, there we go. The triangles are now separated out. Still a pathway in between. Just have to make sure that you do not cross over those land bridges to your kings and vice versa before the 10-minute mark. Questions we usually get around this: can we use the function that is the no rush timer? That would prevent the kings from leaving, but it wouldn't prevent the peasants from going up and saying hi to the kings, and it is usually the peasants that come and knocking, not the kings, before that 10-minute mark. And there we go. Looks like the game is kicking off. And we've got a AllReasonNoLogic matchup here, actually. We have Twig versus Tank Tom. Tank Tom leading Sim of Arc. And we'll see exactly how that one goes. How do you get those mexes? Bacon Dude asked. The answer is you don't until you have defeated your king, after which point you're more than welcome to venture out. That water level will drop at 10 minutes to allow for more avenues of attack. One of the things that we want to see over the course of the game is some assaults with spider-typed units, all-terrain vehicles that can make their way up the ramps. So, what is going on over here? We do have one king up on the hill. Kings gain access to 3 mexes, and if they want any chance of surviving the first 10-minute rush, you want them to have at least some defenses and preferably a fusion. Fusion being a very good start for the kings. You can do more. You can get 2 fusions if you're experienced with the game mode, but if you are not, the fusion is what you want to aim for. If you're the peasants, one of the things that is very much so advised is for one of you to stay T1 and the other one to go T2. The player that goes T2 tap all 3 of your mexes with the T2 constructor to get them going, then walk him across, tapping the 2 in the middle before giving it over to the player on the top side. Gives you as much metal as possible for that 10 minutes. Then the T2 player continues to build T2 units while the T1 player builds some chaff for the front line. Then you try and ram down that king at 10 minutes. Looking around the map, the builds should be fairly standard for everyone. Just get as much wind and as much eco as possible. Do not build any offensive units for the first few minutes of the game. If possible, you are not going to be under any threat from anyone, so any resources you can throw into resource generation early will help you immensely as the game ticks onwards. Having a look at Twig, we're going to focus a bit on his build. This is not necessarily the build you're going to use in some of the other maps, but it is a very good representation of what you want to be looking at when it comes to being a king, and that is maximizing your return as soon as possible. So Twig is going to be getting out, I believe, 5 constructors, and he's going to be having those focused on wind, construction, and conversion. Since there are only those 3 mexes that are available, the only way you're going to get more metal is by converting it. Each one of these wind turbines costs 40 metal. Each one of these metal converters will produce 1.45 metal a second, provided it is powered. Each one of these winds will produce anywhere between 6 and 19, so it will take 3 to 4 wind to power a converter. That means that the converters need to be running for approximately 110 seconds or so to pay themselves off, along with the cost of the wind, which means that the earlier you get them up, better. The other thing that's going to be happening is you're going to be using Reclaim to get yourself ahead in that T2 department. Going to be eating that T2 lab when you start running out of metal. So that T1 lab when you start running out of metal, and getting into T2 in the first couple minutes of the game. You got to get a nice balance of the build power. You got to get a nice balance of the energy and the metal as well. And when you have that, you should be able to transition quite nicely into that T2, and then consume the T2 lab to pay for your fusion. Just worth noting, it is definitely worth having a energy income somewhere in the 1,000 range when you start getting that fusion, and you can do that with 40 to 50 win depending on what condition you're at. Just going to jump away from Twig for a moment, and let's go over and have a look at what is going on the rest of the map. I have heard some comm sacking. Do have a player that's moved their units out into the front. Got to stay behind that line. Hopefully the moderators will clean that one up, or as has happened, the player is heading the units back, and that one has disappeared. Very nice. Looking at Tank Tom as a peasant, very similar build idea as with the King. It's almost like the builds can be quite similar between the two. It'll just be slightly slower as a peasant, because you will have access to slightly less metal. You don't have that plus 45. Got to get these up and converting as soon as possible. But this time you got to remember, because it is 160 metal to build 4 wins, then you're going to need 160 seconds for them to pay themselves back. It will pay itself off over time, but this is why you have to make the choice between what you're going to do T1 and T2 wise. Early defenses going to suck up a lot of that metal used for doing everything that you need for making your way into the T2 stage of the game, and yet this is why you make a decision. One player in your triangle hopefully going to be going T2 and powering everyone's economy out. Let's have a quick look around the map to see what everyone else is doing. Duffy does have the co-op eco position here and has made it to T2 by that 5-minute mark. By detonating a comm and reclaiming it with just that little bit of metal left, he's going to be the first one doing T2 shenanigans. Does look like we have a T2 lab starting to be built by the purple player. Definitely, oh no, looks like it's going to be reclaimed. They are favoring defenses over that T2. My recommendation is not to do that, but it is what it is. This player not overly experienced in this game mode. Do already have a T2 lab out for the for Ollie. Ollie, an experienced player. You can see it by the AllReasonNoLogic banner underneath him. Plays with us on the regular. Going to get those T2 up and rolling. T2 lab already coming down for the blue player, the highest OS in the game, and is going to be popping that probably into... Yep, there is the fusion going down. Plenty of metal to make that happen. Twig's T2 factory is nice and up, and it is getting reclaimed to go into fusions as well. Looking around the map for the other teams, do we have any T2 labs? ScruffyCon is getting a T2 lab, and it is nearly finished. T2 lab out of the yellow player, and they haven't duplicated it with the red player, which is very good to see. 2 T2 labs here, so there is going to be some metal starving. However, with the King struggling for resources at the 7-minute mark and defenses, I think they're going to have a pretty easy lane over here. T2 labs nicely spread around the map, so we do have a lot of co-op on those T2 labs, which is exactly what we want to see. Twig getting his fusion up. Looks like he's going to be a little late in this one. Eater of Cookies is managing to get their second one up. They're going to bottom out on metal very soon, but we see some reclaim going on right now. And we are going, and that is going to power through to the very end of it. 2 minutes to build units. Perfect. That is all that you need to get as many units up as possible. And because of the vehicle start, I would say that Jags may well be the play of the day. Jags very strong in this game mode along with Fiends, as they have the speed and the damage to push lanes very, very quickly at that 10-minute mark. Would recommend a little bit of T1 support. Looks like a lot of builders coming out to address the build power problem, as all this income is coming in. Some wasted energy at the moment. going for T1 converters instead of T2. I both like and dislike this. The T2 converters can be quicker to get back up, but they also have a much higher metal investment cost. So having these T1s in here does create big fields of potential explosions, but also saves metal, which could be used for more vehicles defenses coming up. Beamers, very, very strong. Looking at on Twig's side, similar sort of story. Beamers coming up, 2 T1 labs for spam and a T2 lab coming down. This will be up at around about the 9 minute 20-ish mark, especially once that conversion comes online, only going with the 1 fusion this time round. Looks like Duffy has managed to get his fusion up with 9 minutes, but not going to have very many units, so there is the potential for the purple player to stay relevant in this one, though I think it's going to be quite difficult, because once Duffy starts rolling, he will start rolling units coming out around the map. We have a stout push coming out of red. We have some T2 units coming out of the yellow player. In Eater of Cookies lane, we do have some units out of both players, just T1, getting ready for that assault, but it does look like those Jags are going to come out with plenty of time. Tank Tom just starting to get the units going now. Looks like going for an incisor push. We have discussed how strong those can be, but without support from the other player in his triangle, this is going to be a bit of a struggle for Tank Tom. Twig may choose to push Tank Tom down or push his opponent down, and here we go. We have 5 seconds until the water level should drop, but even so, even without it, the triangles are exposed. That is the 10-minute mark. Go, 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 go. First assaults coming in as we have blue moving out to intercept. A good amount of force coming out of the cream player. Up the top, red sending a good amount of force in. Beamers are holding this for now, but there's plenty here to punch through, and no T2 lab to take this out. So unfortunately, it does look like Ollie will be spent over here. Especially once those build towers go down, Ollie's going to be in a bad way. Unfortunately, going for that second fusion, the greed did not quite play out, and we have a king that is going to fall very, very quickly here. Jumping around on the other side, we do have Duffy's assault starting in towards the purple player. Just a couple of T1 units heading in. There are no T2 mexes, which means that the ability to produce units to counter this very, very low. Twig has fended off Tank Tom's initial attack. Tank Tom trying from the other lane, but no success, and it does look like Eater of Cookies managed to destroy that army with Jags and the Mauser support, and is now heading in to take out the player with the mostest on this side. Uzi doing a good job to put the pressure on, but unfortunately playing against a very, very strong player who has managed to eco very well and has managed to get right into the base. There is a counterattack coming, but unfortunately with all these beamers here and quick production available, so long as Eater of Cookies manages to react, this should be shut down. One of the things you definitely want to do if you're going to be making an attack like this, all those tanks are in range of all of the beamers. If you'd attacked from just one side, you would have been able to fight the beamers on more even grounds. Ticks coming in to try and clean these up. Great success destroying a lot of the conversion, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough as one of the players is taken out. And over on the top side, Duffy with the pink player's support has managed to push in and take that king position. That does mean that the map is open. This side is free to do as they please, and it does look like the yellow player is getting ready to start assisting, and that's definitely a good idea if you can prevent Scruffy from falling by putting your units in the way and just holding this area out and stalling them from doing anything more, expanding and opening up the front. Then you are in a very good position. Remember, if you are attacked by another peasant, that does open you up to attacking them as well. Twig heading in to Tank Tom's base with a very large force of welders. I think this is actually going to do quite a lot of damage. Welders very, very tanky. Tank Tom got to get the comm in there, got to get that comm invisible to get some good D-guns. is standing a lot next to a lot of conversions. That is a lot of damage going in, and the surround bonus. I do reckon the comm is going down, and that is all of Tank Tom's conversion. So while he has the wind, he definitely doesn't have the metal anymore. And so even with that large stout force, it does look like it's going to be a problem. While that was going on, Twig taking out the other player with an equally large-sized force of welders. Does look like the orange player is now spilling over into Supreme Commander. And unfortunately, Supreme Commander, unable to kill both of his kings, did a lot of damage to one of them, but has taken a lot of damage from the other. Another player that didn't seem to make it all the way up to that T2 position. Done a good job all the same, holding on for long enough and dealing damage, but you do definitely need to get that T2 transition in and rolling. Pink is deciding not to scale, and instead, or scale very limitedly, and instead is getting forces up to try and deal with Eater of Cookies, who's going to be one of the hardest, I guess you could say, cookies to crumble in this match, as he... Actually, there is no expansion going on right now, which means that the level of production that is currently at will remain the same. Twig does need to get his act together and start building in the areas that have been taken. Same with Eater of Cookies as well. You do have the ability to reclaim, you do have the ability to start building now that you're working through. Is going to clean up Tank Tom quite nicely, but the longer Tank Tom can hold Twig back and stop him from getting his own scaling done, the better. But with only 2 peasants completely fallen so far, and Tank Tom soon to be a third, this is going to be quite a hard time, despite the caliber of Twig, of the green and the blue players. They definitely have to get in and around and try to do damage. Moving out to attack the yellow player is a good idea. All of yellow's forces are in front of the blue base, so just moving through and trying to get up into the base to deal as much damage as possible will definitely be a good move. This is a perfectly acceptable thing to do. Something which I didn't know, welders are somewhat resistant to lightning attacks, at least that's what I have been told. Very interesting little dynamic there, and it does look like there's going to be enough Jags to push in here, and it's going to be up to the comm to do a very, very strong defense. Even with that, Jags are quite decent at taking out comms. Just going to come down to how well protected they are. That comm is nearly dead. A couple more shots, there it goes. Not too many Jags taken out. But that does look like the welders have been given enough time that they should be able to clear this up without too much more damage going on. Would have been great to snag that build power. In fact, still probably can. Yes, that's the build power going down. That's going to stop yellow from spamming units out, and almost gets further into the base. Does look like Twig now is on the back foot from the backside. Marauders coming into his base. Welders doing a decent job of cleaning it up, and plenty of spam for them to shoot at. So far, none of the critical infrastructure has been taken out, and a nice chunk of reclaim available for Twig if he wants to take it. But with all of this fighting going on, it doesn't seem like he is quite on the ball for that one. Looks like there's going to be a little bit of a lull in the... it looks like this will be a little bit of a lull in the combat for a moment, as all the players consolidate their units and start getting ready to move forward. The counterattacks by the Kings, not quite successful, but there is still hope. If all they have to do is scale hard enough with that plus 45, they're capable of scaling very, very strongly. And it does look like, other than Duffy, all of the rest of the Kings are mostly working on units as compared to extreme scaling. It's fine balance you have to run, and we'll see whether they manage a great amount of beamer defenses here. I definitely prefer units over beamers, but beamers do trade incredibly efficiently. Good at clearing spam, good at clearing T2 units. But if these Jags did manage to get just a little bit further around and come in from the very back, they could have slotted themselves in nicely, but they did turn that little bit too early. Twig just taking more attacks from both sides, consolidating his position right now. Definitely needs to look at getting some more build power. He's with the reclaim, I think there's reclaim going on. Yes, there is. Building up those metal reserves, and definitely needs to spend them. Big Marauder push coming out of Duffy. Duffy does not want this game to go long. He wants to get into the big stuff. He wants to get into the large map Raptor Crater. And he is going to try and push Twig out as quickly as possible. It does look like Red has finished their build power scaling and is now, and their T2 transition, and is coming down to help against the blue player. The blue player up to 4 fusions now, filling the base with rattlesnakes for good defense. Pink trying to find a way to shoot up to the top, just hiding his comm down there, seeing if that'll get something done in the future. Twig unfortunately wasn't able to get out and fortify the additional bastions in time, and these are starting to be taken out by the dark orange player. Twig doing his best to defend, but with only a handful of welders, beamers, and snipers, these marauders have some good potential to get damage done. He's taking a lot of damage on that comm. The comm will die, almost certainly. Oh, couple more shots, but Twig is walking it out there. Unfortunately, the marauders have done what they needed to do. They've cleared out a lot of the welders and allowed for the mass spam to come on in. It does look like Twig is going to start falling to this as these units penetrate deeper and deeper. If they can get the build power, Twig will be unable to continue the unit production, and then the next wave will finish him off, but it does look like a lot of this has been managed. However, pulling all of the units to one side has allowed for the other side to start attacking. This two-sided attack, definitely making things difficult for Twig. A comm trying to sneak up and get some good D-guns, maybe a comm bomb in the base. Twig is aware of it, but what can he do at this point? If he pulls the units from the other side, is going to lose those. The comm bomb not too bad, only taking out a couple of units, but the defenses have been cracked on this side, so there's lots of damage yet to come for Twig. Looking at the other side, it does look like the yellow and the red players are sticking with a somewhat defensive mode as they start getting ambassadors up to start sieging those beamers. We do have a pulsar, which has no, it hasn't targeted. Actually, they have taken out the ambassador. Good targeting right there. Plenty of rattlesnakes, just keeping everyone at bay, and scaling into an aphis. You're going to need a heck of a lot of scaling if you want to try and hold and beat this. I do love the way this is set out though, with so much anti-spam and plenty of high damage. In fact, there are 26 beamers defending this base right now, but with all of the units coming in from all of the different teams, this is still going to be a hard push to stop. Again, one of the things you need to consider when you do the attack is to try to attack on the correct number of vectors. Too few and the units bunch up, but too many and all of the turrets are brought to bear on you. Plenty of defenses destroyed, but a lot of the chaff has been taken out, and the rattlesnake shots are going very, very hard into this. It does look like this second push of welders is probably going to be enough. If they grab that build power, there it goes. That is going to stop the player from building. That's going to stop the blue player from building much more. And then as soon as these fusions start going, that is going to be the end. The blue player held out very well, but when you end up against 3 players like that, so without managing to take on your side completely, that is the position you end up with. And it does look like Twig is the final holdout for the Kings. Unfortunately for the Kings this time, Ollie just a little bit behind on his build, so wasn't quite able to defend that initial push into his base. The 2 fusions coming down a little bit too late, and then the purple and the light green player stuck on that T1, didn't quite scale into the T2, and so were overwhelmed by their 2 peasants. Big push now coming up with a huge amount of grunts into Twig's base. Twig with... Actually, there are still multiple comms alive for the Kings team, which means that even if Twig's comm does go down, it's not necessarily a loss. These beamers doing a great job of cleaning up the pawns, but the hound's now starting to clean up the beamer. Each beamer that falls is going to be a big problem. Twig's unit's just not in position for this one. If those welders had been spread out a little bit more, could have prevented a lot of that damage, but keeping a lot of it on this side because that's where a lot of the pressure has been coming from. And here we have some spiders, all-terrain vehicles, going to find their way into the base. I do think Twig will react. Twig does have the units in position to react to this. He does have some welders there, some LLTs, but that is a lot of recluse, and they have hit the conversion. That's a lot of Twigs. That's a lot of Twig's metal income just down the drain right there. Does look like they're going to be cleaned up, but that is all of Twig's conversion down, which means his income is entirely based on those 3 mexes. That is not a lot of income for the Twig man. Just want to see the damage efficiency real quick. 162% for Twig, 182% for Eater of Cookies. So they definitely did. They definitely hit those numbers needed to make this viable, but unfortunately just too overwhelming with too many players. The King's doing their best to make it back into the game. Ollie is trying to frantically build in this bottom corner, but it does look like the overwhelming forces are starting to march through now that blue's been completely cleaned up. That's a lot of reclaim available for the peasants, and this could be a... and this will be a reasonably quick death for Twig. Fat boys starting to make their way up the hill with the sniper backup. As long as they start getting any sort of vision, these will start raining in huge amounts of damage, and they should be able to stay out of range of most of the defenses. A couple of shots onto the pop-up. Just a minor hiccup just there. Back at it. Only a couple more shots onto that pop-up to completely clear it up. And those rovers getting the vision needed, and there we go. That is some of the last defenses there. These snipers and these fat boys should just be able to fight command into the base. The hounds too. Twig doing his best to hold out. He's holding his geo frantically, but without that conversion, the metal income just is not there. Only plus 38. That is not going to be quick, but without too much build power and with plenty of energy income, he is going to do his best to hold. Big recluse push coming up. Twig does have plenty of welders behind to deal with them. Welders, if they can get in range of the recluses, very good at cleaning them up. Twig coming in, hopefully getting a good D-gun right there. Takes out some of the most danger, but misses the next couple of D-guns. Got to remember they can do a little bit of a wonky thing on ramps. Gets taken out by the hounds, and that's essentially the last of the defenses in this top side. Twig is going to have to potentially pull those welders from the back to the front, but if he does that, oh dear, geo explosion about to happen. Just some ticks taking that one down. And now we are down to a single comm for the King's team. Will this one... oh, big skirmish over here. The recluses are taking out the welders, but the welders are punching it back pretty damn hard. Actually, the recluses are just ignoring them, going for the fusions. I probably would have made the same call, if I'm being honest. Sack them in order to cripple Twig. Always worth it, in my opinion. The build power. If the build power goes down, that's all Twig wrote. We do have the last comm over here, just hiding around the corner. If you can't see me, you cannot destroy me. Beamers, welders, doing his best to get into this game. Ollie's done a really good job getting back into this when you get completely wiped. It is not an easy thing to do, but has managed to start a base over here, though I don't think it's going to be quite enough. The only income right now is a handful of solars. Was relying on Twig's overflow, but that is all gone. Jumping on down to Ollie, the last survivor over here, even though he was one of the first destroyed. That last little bastion, all units headed this way. There's even a Titan chunking its way along. That Titan, if nothing else cleans this up before then, will most certainly clean this up. But look how effective these beamers are. 40 kills. Oh, mass nuke coming down. That is the moderators calling the end to the game. Good last stand, Ollie, but no dice for you this time. Leo, you asked if the Kings have any kind of buff. Yes, they do. They're sitting at plus 45%. This one was a very one-sided game because one of the Kings messed up their build order and ended up with no defenses no units at that 10-minute mark. And two of the others very low in experience with King of the Hill and never made it to T2, so were unable to mount an effective defense. Let's have a quick look at those stats for everyone looking. If you see, the damage dealt for the Kings is actually higher than for the peasants, and if you look at the metal produced, it's most certainly higher for the peasants, but you have to remember 3 of the Kings fell almost instantly in this one, so definitely a skewed result there. Quick look at the graphs over here, the ones that I always find very interesting. The metal produced 3 of the Kings absolutely dominant, the others sitting in the same realms as the peasants. Then if we look at the damage dealt, 2 of the Kings doing most of the damage for the team, the others doing their best but not quite making it through. Let's jump out of this one, and I see that Tank Tom and Twig have joined me back in the casting cast. Twig, how do you feel this one went? You certainly got put on the back foot after that 10-minute mark.
Yeah, it was I thought it was a fun one. I felt like I had my lanes under control, but just
Oh, yeah.
as soon as stuff came from the left, it was tough. I was just trying to scale. I didn't probably scale well enough. I ended building 2 fusions in the end, but I never really bottomed out on metal. So really, it was just APM that was my problem.
Fair enough.
Yeah, me and Yuzi went from trying to kill our kings to having enough just to keep you vaguely occupied or annoy you, and then wait for the other to come through.
No, it was an interesting one to watch, but unfortunately for the Kings, Ollie fell a little behind in his build order and kept to the greed, so didn't manage to get units up, the T2 lab up in time for that 10-minute mark, and 2 of the Kings fell very quickly on T1. So you definitely put on the back foot from the get-go.
Yeah, having 2 kings fall makes it very hard.
3,
Duffy
in
did
fact.
really well. I thought the player to my left, Supreme Commander, his name was.
Supreme Commander did manage to fall, but as soon as the
quite a bit.
units spilled down, he fell very quickly.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Alright,
That is
so-
how it falls sometimes. The best games do come from matches where 1 or 2 kings fall and 6 or so peasants fall. Then it turns into an absolute mayhem. Just having a quick look in chat. How does this work? Okay. So Pask, you're hearing me as reasonably quiet.
You're definitely very loud. So.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's on our end or on yours. If you balance it out with the game volume, it might just be that the settings have been turned down a little bit on your end. We know there's a tiny bit of a discrepancy between Twitch and YouTube. On YouTube, I will be fractionally louder.
Okay, we're on to Raptor Crater. We're in a new lobby, and we're going to do 9 kings. I'm thinking we go a 50% bonus. I would love to see us get to our first 100 player King of the Hill tonight. We got close last week.
Fingers crossed we do make it. These lobbies have been getting bigger week to week, and we do want to make sure that we absolutely destroy all of the server architecture that has been provided by the wonderful bar devs.
I might actually help you cast this one, Prey. And
No worries. When we get in game, I'll slightly adjust my in-game sounds up. I know that I dropped them down before because of excessive pinging, and we'll see how we go.
What we might do, Tom, is take some of those higher OSs out of. We'll leave Regeki down in Kings, Eater of Cookies. We'll take out because he was just a king.
But a virtual friend. This game mode is entirely reliant on essentially user participation. There is no easy way to set up these lobbies. Maybe one day there will be, but at the moment this is just a Sunday night thing that we run with the help of the mods. And who knows, maybe one day in the future there will be the opportunity to have its own game mode in-game, its own set of settings. Good day, Enabling Barley, thanks for joining us, and we're glad you managed to catch the stream. We are in Australia time, which I know isn't the best for everyone around the world. But hopefully in the 50k event, we might get the opportunity to, if not run this, maybe run a large lobby with us. We will see how that one goes. Not entirely sure when that one's rolling around, but if we do end up participating in it, then we will let everybody know.
I might jump in and spectate this one with you guys as well.
Good day. Johnny drop tables. The thing about Australia is that we don't drop tables, we have drop bears. And if you read all the ridiculous things about Australia, then you will probably guess. You can probably guess about the whether or not Australia is real. Nightmare asking about the allegations of smurfing. No, I just handed my PC off to someone else, and they tried to play. We had huge account issues trying to get them to play, and I think that's what kicked everything up, because I didn't particularly want them playing ranked on mine. Especially not after I've just tried to get to OS 25.
Just one more to get the bonus. Now that's very, very high. King team. Maybe give Pyro the bonus. And who was king last game? Supreme Commander was a king last game, so take him out.
Yeah.
Does look like we're going to end up with a 9 versus 70. Holy crap.
Yeah, we did a 9 versus 78 last week. That was our biggest.
So one of the things to bear in mind is that the advantage that the peasants get with when the number of people scale is the ability to macro, the ability to share resources, and starting income. The fact is that even if there are less players, there's still the same number of mexes on the map, so unless you coordinate very well, having more players isn't necessarily going to guarantee you the win. We definitely have noticed that that the Kings need a slight bump compared to, say, a 40-player lobby, and we've done that in the form of adding a 9th king so that they can put someone in the middle that is more of a eco-focused king, and also jumping those bonuses from plus 45 to plus 50. And so far from that, we've seen a good amount of wins and losses for both sides. Duffy's asking if he can solo. I'll leave all the decision making up to Twig and Tank Tom. I'm just your voice for the evening.
Not this game. Bit early in the night. We can do some tricky stuff towards the end of the night. This is a very powerful king side. I am trying to figure out. That is not Duffy, because that is a Swedish flag. And Eater of Cookies has Duffy's OS, and that's an Australian flag.
I wonder if something is amiss.
All right, we can probably kick this one off once players
Just
load
waiting
in.
for everyone to ready up.
You know what? We are so close to 100. We've done it. That's 100.
Yep, that is over
Actually?
100.
101. 101. Our first 100 player.
That is a huge lobby.
Probably a good thing that 5 of the Kings are OS 30 and above. In fact, almost every one of them is quite an experienced player. Last week we had 2 rounds of 80 plus games with Kings of 50 plus bonus. Kings won 1, Peasants won 1. You might think this is a bit unfair, but you would be surprised. I will post those rules one more time.
Yes, for those of you wondering what the rules are for this one, we'll get into them as the game starts. Once everyone is loaded in and we've got some time to fill as the 10-minute no rush goes on, we'll fully explain everything and get right into the action.
Largely just waiting on a couple of people to finish downloading, and then we'll be good to go.
Yes, and there's always a couple of people that are sitting in the lobby and have AFK'd because of the duration of the game beforehand. And with any luck, we'll just end up locking the lobby and then speccing the handful of people that are not available.
Alright, Nightmare has put a code in that should make the lava drop. I'm assuming, Nightmare, that it is the one that Chrono has posted in the Discord for AllReasonNoLogic. Because that one should work. I've tested it.
Leo, yes, we do host this every week at this hour. If we're not live on the official, then we're live on our own Twitch Just depends on what the scheduling is like with the mods. Sometimes the lobbies can go this big, sometimes not. That is also out of our hands, but we do really thank the mods that are in here. In particular, Nightmare, who I can see in the spectators right now and who's hanging out in the casting couch with me. For ensuring all of this stuff happens. He is responsible for getting rid of most of the infractions. For example, if someone builds artillery that can hit other bases, and also anything that goes wrong in the match, such as the lava, as well as some of the bigger explosions that can happen at the end, as well as turning the match into a bit of chaos if it ends up in a one-sided stomping. That's right. We are sitting in a 100-person lobby. There's 110 peasants.
This would be why people keep on downloading and having.
We may want to lock the lobby so that we can get started, I reckon.
It's going to break our poor Australian computers.
Well, at least we're going to be helping with server stability tests in the lead up to the 50k event. If EU8 can handle this, then we know that's another one that is good to go for this time, for larger games. So one of the things which is happening right now, if you're looking into the text box at the bottom, you're seeing some ID changes. I'm just going to bring that up so that people can see this one. Everyone is assigned a unique ID. Unfortunately, when you start going over 16 players, the game sometimes has some issues with those IDs and giving everyone a unique ID. In a normal game, you can just fix that one by pressing balance, and it should reassign everybody new IDs, but with a game like this where we have 110 people on one team and 9 on the other, unfortunately, if we click balance, we'll end up with approximately 60 on each side, which is not quite the point of the game mode.
Do we want an extra king with this many peasants on the outside? I'm just aware that
We might want to consider bumping it to maybe plus 55. I don't think we've ever had more than 90 before.
Yeah, okay.
I just know that this many comms makes a lot of
metal.
Yeah, having 10 kings doesn't necessarily help because there's only really 9 kings worth of metal. If you give the center ones to 1 king and then all the others get 6.
I'd be like,
I do not think I can set bonuses because with so many people
You're putting them up, are you?
Yeah, I'm putting them up. Can you guys deal with the spec votes and stuff? Because that's causing me to struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
yes, the game is struggling with the voting system with this many people in the lobby.
Yeah.
All right, we'll manually spec people. Leave that to us. I think it's pretty much good to go now.
There's still a few more to bump up.
Yep. Now that there are no votes in the queue. Oh, there we go. All right.
One of them didn't have a 55, I don't think.
Looks like one person is missing their plus 55, but we'll make it work.
Yeah, well, there's definitely not enough spots for the peasants out there. So
true, but the peasants will start at 210 metal income and 5,000 energy income.
What the disadvantage for the kings is going to be is that the player cap is divided between all the players in the lobby, not just the team. So each player is only going to get 266 units.
Ah, yeah, that's going to be a big problem for the kings.
Yeah, because that means that you basically can't run spam And things like build towers, I'm fairly certain, count towards your unit cap.
They
as
do, all
well.
buildings do, so your wind, your everything, so make sure you're reclaiming that as much as possible.
Yeah, that'll make these rough. I guess we'll see how it goes once they all load in.
Yes. We always lose a couple of players in the first moment.
Oh, this might be on draft still. The last lobby I fixed. This one I can't remember.
What's that?
Draft order.
Oh no. No presets.
Oh no, it's fixed. It's good.
Alright. Good to go. That would have been quite funny if it was on draft. Everyone loading in at the moment. Plenty of players. 61 peasants loaded in, and 6 of the kings loaded in.
A lot of chaos, a lot of pings.
I'm not even up to the chaos and the pings yet. Just sitting here
Still.
waiting for it all to dump in. James saying a bit of urban planning for the peasants. Yes, definitely going to need some urban planning. There we go. Look at all those colorful dots
Ding, ding,
racing
ding,
around.
ding.
That's everybody looking around the map. We do have 107, 108 enemies loaded in, and all 9 of the kings. I'm just going to give a quick erase to everything on the board. And let's draw some lines for everybody. So, most efficient way for the kings to divide everything up is to give one player the... You know, this is still...
Scene change, pray.
Yeah. So, to give the play... There... With so much going on, it's very hard to draw. So, you give one player all of the mexes in the middle. Nope, definitely still behind with this many players in there. And then everybody else takes a single corridor down the side, which means that all the kings get 6 mexes except for the player in the middle who gets 8, and that 8th player is focused mostly on eco. The other players are focused on getting defenses up and running. Now, as far as things go, all peasants need to stay outside of the lava. Woo. What happened there?
I think we flew too close to the sun. I'm guessing. It feels a lot like a server crash.
Too much going on, too many communications. The lobby's still going.
Not sure what happened just there.
Yeah, I think we've all been kicked back to the lobby for now.
Yes, the game was struggling there a little bit.
Looks like it's a clash. Crash.
Hmm.
Either of the mods saying it's them.
Yes.
We did lose one king, so we can have another jump down there.
Yeah.
Have no doubt Eater of Cookies, aka Duffy, will try.
Yeah.
Though I think at the moment everything will be locked, so we'll need to unlock it for someone. There we go. Eater of Cookies has been forced to Team 2. And we'll give him a nice little bonus. He can have a plus 20, I reckon that's fair for Duffy.
Yeah, sounds alright.
I'm trying to figure out who the one that's named Duffy is. A Swedish player. I can't remember the players that are Swedish of that
That's
higher
exactly
always.
what I'm gonna do, Nightmare.
Can someone chuck the rules into the chat? Someone's asking about it.
Luxy.
There we go.
I'll do the rules, Tom. It's just a little bit shorter, so it doesn't spam out the
Yeah.
screen. Oh, that's a welcome message. Apologies.
Oh, it's got all the rules in there. I just haven't done my copy and paste at the moment. That's largely why.
Okay. We are not far off. Making sure there's no bonuses to any of the peasants.
Not that I can see. No, that looks all good.
All right, and it looks like everyone's readied up as well. Oh no, one person. 2 people. 1 person. 2 people. Okay, because people keep leaving. That's why.
Let's do a lock on this, perhaps.
I'm just waiting for that last one to ready up, and then we're good to go. Ooh.
Please don't vote, people.
Yes, in.
I think it's just flown out of the way, none. Let's go.
There we go.
Thanks for that, Flo. Reassigning those IDs. Ray, while all the chaos of people picking their positions unfolds, let's quickly talk about what you've just achieved this week in the Road to OS 25. So after more than a year away from the ranked games, you've thrown yourself back into 8 versus 8 games. I think you were down at around 17, 16, something like that. OS working back up to 25. You stuck to the lower OS lobbies as that's what we felt best represented what most players that come into the game at that lower OS target. And that really gives like a good mix of chaotic team games with probably a lack of sharp decision making, but a lot of fun, a little bit of salt as well. So yeah, it was a great achievement for you to get there. I think you did it in about 20 games. Made for a good series on our YouTube. And yeah, can you explain for the people that are watching on that might be new to the game what it means to get to OS 25, like how the rating system works, and why is OS 25 the reason you like why was that the goal?
So when you first start bar, you'll be OS 17, which is basically your position in like your skill level in the game. If you go below 17, it means that you've lost more games than you won. If you go above 17, you've won more games than you've lost. There's a much more complicated algorithm behind it than that, and there's probably someone significantly better than me who can explain that. But at the end of the day, it's just a ranking of where you sit in comparison to other people. If you are sitting below 17, that's pretty normal for a new player because you're learning a lot of stuff about the game. If you start making your way up above the 20 mark, it means that you're starting to be decently good. And once you're above 25, then that actually starts excluding you from a lot of noob lobbies. A lot of noob lobbies cap out at a max OS of 25, which means you got to start playing that next level of game where everyone's expected to know pretty well what they're doing. So the 25 mark, not only is it a nice number, it's also just the point in the game where people expect you to know what you're doing and know how to play pretty well. Alright.
Sorry, just putting a message in there to stop pinging. Yeah, I think that person's going to get kicked.
It's a lot of people.
Oh man, that is painful.
So, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna deal with that. Side Nove.
Nove is going to get kicked.
I'm going to clear all that so I can see what's going on again.
All right. Yes.
All right, back to the conversation. That was hectic. So I was going to I obviously got to see and help cast all of those games. But what was your hardest part of the grind to get there? What was it keeping your OS up, or finding the right lobbies, or just simply the gameplay and the skill levels that you were up against?
Honestly, it was very much so that I didn't want to. I'm not a competitive player by nature. The hardest thing was forcing me to play to do it. I wanted to get to OS 25, and once I was actually playing, I enjoy it. But actually getting me to sit down for the games is was definitely a task. One of the things we definitely did do was we tried to pick lobbies where the game was at least fair. So, for example, if we ended up on a team which was massively scaled against, like if I ended up on a team that was massively scaled against us, I was more likely to leave that lobby or try to wait for someone else to join and do an exclamation mark rebalance.
Battle paused. I've got some in the middle.
Yeah, that's right. We'll ask that those 3 get removed. Don't worry about giving them back their commanders.
I suspect they might have just been ones that didn't place.
Possibly, yeah. But yeah, it was making sure that your team didn't have any incredibly weak links. So if I ended up on a team with a 1 OS or something, I would probably not play the game. I'd probably move out, because the odds of your team losing go up significantly there. So I think there's definitely an element of I wouldn't say you have to filter your lobbies, but you do have to be aware that sometimes it's worth finding a different lobby, because you'll be put in a position where you might be at a big disadvantage, or if you play multiple games in the same lobby, and then you end up on a team where you know from past games, like, oh, okay, so 3 of my teammates don't know to build solars when the wind is like at 0 to 5. You might want to consider not being in that lobby. But
yeah,
we'll continue this one in a minute. Let's just jump into what's actually going on for the moment. So for those of you that are tuning in, this is King of the Hill. And in the middle, we have 9 kings, all with a plus 55% bonus. And around the outside, we have 102 players this time, which makes this the biggest game of kings we've ever casted. There is lava that's preventing entrance into the bottom of the map. That'll be there for 10 minutes. And at the 10-minute mark, it'll be essentially open season. There are a couple of rules that you do need to be aware of, those being not to build structures that can fire offensively into your opponent's bases. That means that on these high grounds here, please do not build things like the rattlesnakes. More than okay to build something like LLTs or beamers, that sort of thing, but do not build the rattlesnakes there. If you're going to build the rattlesnakes, maybe consider putting them all the way back so they can hit the ramps, but not the opponent's bases. This is done because of space concerns. Pre-building all of your offensive structures ahead of time and then turning them on at the 10-minute mark can be a nightmare to deal with, and the kings and the peasants are forced to be in the positions they're in, so you can blind fire onto just about everything. Air is off, and beyond that, I think that's around about it, unless I'm missing something.
No, that's the basic rules.
That's the most important ones. And
one of the things I love about this this lobby over here, you look on the left-hand side there, we've just had a commander detonate, and the detonation does put the ground below the level of the lava, and you just see the... You want to detonate your commanders up on the hills, put it that way.
You can repair the ground, though, and get the lava away, but that is something to note. You can see it on this side, too. Oops. one of the now let's just talk a bit about what we want to see out of all of the different spots. So if you look into the king's positions, there is 10 minutes for them to eco, which means we don't want to see units before sort of 8 minutes. We want to see all of that going into eco, and if you want to stand a chance, you need to get every single king to at least a fusion and T2 extractors. There are builds which will let you get to an APHIS, there are builds which will let you get to 2 fusions, but minimum 1 fusion and T2 construction. The kings really do need to be ready to attack at that 10-minute mark, because there are so many peasants around here. If you just leave them to scale, they'll keep the pressure up on you and you will lose. Around on the peasants side, if you're taking one of these front lane positions, potentially consider not going too heavy into eco. Make yourself nice and hard to crack. Request a T2 builder from the people behind you and see what you can get done to fill everything up with units. If you're slightly behind, so in some of these middle eco spots like you see over here, definitely go with those units to really push in and at that 10-minute mark. And also if you're on these higher wings, consider doing that as well. And then if you're in these corners, try to work together and get that T2 out and share it off to everyone. 1 T2 lab is significantly cheaper than 5. And you still get the same result out of it, and you potentially get it faster by sharing. If you look at the top left corner, we usually see this as a massive eco center, but it has not happened quite so much this time. We do have a T2 lab at the 5-minute mark up here, but we have seen them as early as 2 minutes in the Kings games. So if you feed each other, you may end up with a very, very strong eco.
The Kings this time around are doing much more sharing of their T2 builders. We haven't had as many T2 labs, but there's been, I think, 2 or 3 constructors at least shared around. But most people have got their T2 labs up at this point, and it's typical that you see those T2 labs at about 5 minutes or so.
What I'm seeing out of the Kings are... I've got 9 kings, and I know 5 of them are quite well versed at King of the Hill. So if this was a normal King of the Hill, when I say normal, none of them are normal, but like back down to the sub 100 numbers. Oh, that's a weird vote to resign before the game's even started. The sub 100 numbers is, I would have expected this King's lot to win. I know Real Cookie, who's really duffy, getting the extra medal out of those 3 commanders. That's like a massive boost, well into T2 already, going into that advanced constructor, getting them out and upgrading all the mexes. And it's only 6 minutes in. I wouldn't be surprised if we almost see T3 out of him with that boost at the start. But there are 100, and I've got to check this. How many were there? 100 and something. We'll see in the replay later on when we cast this one if we do.
So,
over 100 players.
101 in the lobby currently, and there are at least 3 that have left.
Yeah, we started with 111, and there was over 140 people in the lobby when you include the spectators.
Just as a
it's a big game when there's that many commander detonations every 10 seconds.
I was going to say, with 101 players and only 80 comms for the peasant team, that means that 21,000 metal minimum has been injected into the peasants' economy.
Do we have fusions up anywhere for the peasants? I'm not seeing any in the corner. That's where I look straight away.
That's always where you'll find the fusions for the peasants. But it does look like
as APHIS, only 28 minutes to build on that one though.
So when I was talking about the corners, I was joking about 5 T2 labs, but if you look at the bottom left corner, there are in fact 5 T2 labs.
Aye. That is not communism. Well, not a successful communism anyway.
5 T2 labs is 15,000 metal. 15,000 metal. You could do 1 T2 lab and share and get an APHIS in the same amount of time as you could build 5 T2 labs. Just a heads up. You could actually build 2 T2 labs and the APHIS for that price. Anyway, that's just something to bear in mind and try to coordinate. We do actually in the AllReasonNoLogic Discord, we do have a Kings channel and a Peasants channel if you are trying to coordinate it. We do post the links in-game. It's part of the welcome message, so if you do want to try and coordinate with your team, then that's the way to do it. I'm also sure there are plenty of people in the bar official that are working it out together as well. We do have some
I'm still
successful co-op
favouring the
eco.
Kings. What do you reckon?
What was that? Sorry.
I'm still favouring the Kings, I reckon. What do you reckon?
There is some
Just because there's
successful
no
co-op
fusion going
eco
up anywhere.
for the peasants. If you look at the right-hand side, a lot of these players are working together to get an APHIS on the front lines. That's going to be a pretty crazy thing to have up by 10 minutes, and
That's
it doesn't
a risky
look like...
positioning for it.
Yeah, but if you look at what the Kings have right now, how much offense do they actually have?
Very
There's 1 minute
little.
left, and I'm seeing some of the least amount of units out of the peasants that I've ever seen. I cannot see one army
I'm
yet
not seeing a
of
lot
any
of
size.
pressure that's going to be applied at that 10-minute mark.
Yeah.
Ideally, we'd love to see masses of units ready to charge down pretty much every single ramp.
Yeah.
The
Because when you
team
do
which
that,
Every
is...
single peasant went in right away at the start. We already know from previous weeks.
Oh dear.
Oh, no.
Top left corner, someone detonated their comm a little bit close to conversion and created a bit of a chain reaction right there.
They're not even going to get to reclaim their comm because maybe they will go around the lava. They've seen that just in time.
But yes, for the Kings, we do have some Kings in good positions. We do have some Kings that are lagging a little bit behind. Regeki does have his first APHIS up, so being in that eco position is doing a very good job to eco. Does look like Eater of Cookies has gone very heavy into defenses, and so is going into a late fusion and is mostly sticking to T1. Hasn't even T2'd
There
all
goes
his
that lava
maxes.
disappearing.
There we go. That is
from those
10
ramps.
minutes. That is go, go, go. And we will look for that
Really
first bit
lack
of aggression.
action.
Look at that bottom side. This is going to be a strong attack. We have a lot of T1 pushing in. We have ticks for scouting. We have brutes, pounders, and
spreading out to find where those gaps are going to be.
yes. And this is definitely going to come in to a open-ish lane, but there are units being built, but no metal going into it. This player doesn't have a fusion, so their ability to build units is quite limited. A push did come up at Eater of Cookies, but unable to break his solid defenses. Does look like the ticks have made it past. They're going to get the conversion, and a couple of them were out of range to be taken out, so it does look like the next set of conversions is going to go as well.
Power of the tick.
Yes, just remember,
look at
as
these flashes.
Kings, you really do have to help one another. If a single king falls, then enemies are going straight into the middle of your base, and it looks like that's exactly what's happening with it. These blitzers, though the fact that they are hugging all the things that they are killing is certainly doing a lot of damage to them. Those units could be almost full on health right now, but they have essentially killed themselves.
The fusions stay alive.
There's still a bit of damage here, but yes, the fusions are going to stay alive, and that means that player can get well back into it. Just means a little bit defensive. We do have a push coming up in the top side. We've got a couple of Sheldons using their range advantage to plink away at all these defenses. Taking a couple of shots from the Warden. If they stay back, they should be able to outrange it nicely. You just need a little bit of vision so that you can see it.
Despite the 100 or so peasants, they only have a 37% advantage on metal production per second.
Yes.
So I think the Kings have really done quite well to scale. Also, the extra metal at the start's really helped, and the general high OS of the Kings is a lot higher than what we usually see at this point. Usually, they're about 150% behind at this stage of the game.
Well, the usual 10-minute medal for the Kings is somewhere between 500 and 700. So at 10 minutes, that's the expected income per minute. And for these guys, they've managed to get themselves up to over 1,000 by the 10-minute mark. So doing very, very well.
Bit of a different strategy for the Kings this time around. They've gone heavy into the defenses rather than getting the units. It looks like they've definitely made the call to eco harder early, get up to that T3 production, and then roll out from that point is what I'm expecting to see.
If any peasants are listening in, just remember the best defense is offense.
As a
And
peasant,
they
you
all
cannot
start.
individually match a king. A king will be doing significantly better than you on your own. But a group of peasants can most certainly overwhelm a king, and if you attack all gates at once, it means that no king will be able to reinforce their buddies. And that means that if any king is weak, you will have the ability to punch straight on in. Does look like
And
a sprinter run by is trying to head through for Eater of Cake, but they are going for the defenses compared to running past. My biggest bit of advice is if you manage to get past the defenses, don't run it back into them. Go in and get your eco damage done. If you take out the build power, that resets a king for almost an entire minute. If you get the conversion, then they're down
Some
to
good pushes
just
coming
their
in
income.
on this bottom side.
The blitzers have made it through, but again, sticking nice and close to those wins and taking a lot of damage as they run past. One has
The
made it
fusions
in,
go down.
and the fusions are down, which means that this player is in a very bad spot. In fact, I think they may have left the game. They have in fact left the game. They've now been taken by another player, and with any luck, they will be able to push back, and with the help of the players around them, that does seem to be what is happening. You have to try, as kings, you really do have to try and control the gateways into the ramps into the into the pit or the hill. If you do not, then the peasants gain quite the advantage. As soon as they manage to make a bastion up here, then you are in a lot of trouble.
They also have much more mobility to get around your defenses once they're up onto that inner ring. If you can hold them at the ramps, you only have to defend the ramp. As soon as they can get around those defenses, suddenly your front basically doubles because it's anywhere in that circle that you're then defending from.
Does look like the incomes are running pretty stable to each other, with both teams sitting at around about that 15 to 1800 income, depending on
for kings to have
reclaim.
that at the 15-minute mark. That's way better than we've ever seen out of kings. So maybe that 55% bonus was a bit much.
Does look like
We
on
shall
the
see.
left-hand side we do have the War of the Tremors as they fire onto each other and try and do as much damage. We do have a demon pushing through. That demon's going to have a lot to fight up against with those beamers, but a demon is a very good unit for punching through and is grabbing a lot of the eco as it runs on through. And a second one coming up should be able to punch this location quite nicely. These backline players really do need to get online and start helping. Without the early game aggression to shut down this level of scaling, the kings have been allowed to just sit behind their defenses and scale without having to worry too much about units building just enough to stay alive. That's a position you can't let the kings be in.
And it doesn't take much.
Balls down the bottom left.
Those balls will go
Deep
straight
runs
through
out of the
those
orange
walls that are
commander.
down there.
Good grab for the com, but I do reckon the rest will be cleaned up by those tigers. And we do now have the 3 demons that are making their way into all those defenses. The pop-ups, the beamer's going to do a lot, but the demons just have so much DPS that they are just riding through all of those defenses. They've hit the fusions now, and those will go down super quickly. If you let demons get close to you, this is going to be the result. There was a com over here, but didn't get in position to give them a good D-gun, and now they have some free reign to start pumping through more and more of the eco.
And suddenly the peasants go from having the front of just the ramps to having to defend across the sides as well, and you can see the damage that those are doing when they're rolling around
It is
behind those
surprising me
defenses.
that none of these commanders are going invisible. Well, we got one now. Good way to take out T3, which is by itself without any spam. That beautiful D gun. And if
Yes.
your commander is becoming visible, just stop it from walking out. And he takes, I think, about 300 energy per second. Compared
Unfortunately,
to
it
the,
doesn't have the energy to move around while this com doesn't have the energy to move around while invisible. And it does look like one of the invisible comms is standing next to a visible comm. The visible comm is going to go down super quick and has nearly killed the invisible one. So any misfires going to take them out. Does look like there is some sort of coverage there, and the comm was spotted. All these comms going down. There's now so much fire coming out of the demons that it's going to be very hard to get close. One does go down, but immediately target fired by the other demons. And as Tank Tom was saying, the inverse is true of gaining a foothold on the ground level. If the kings gain a foothold on the top level, then they have a extra front that they can attack you from. Most defenses are
One player on the
concentrated
right hand
ramps.
side looks like it's going to get into that economy. They've managed to get in past the defenses, and they're targeting the Aphis by the look of it.
Where?
Unfortunately, the
Oh,
right
yep.
in the middle,
Oof.
Right, blue.
going for the wrong thing. You don't go for the APHIS, you want to go for the build power, or even better, the advanced energy converters. They'll pop very quickly.
Yes. Good opportunity there,
Bottom
but
right looks to be
unfortunately...
pushing in as well. Down here, they've been able to hold the top of their ramp. Doesn't look like they're going to get into the middle anytime soon, just because of those masses of units that are dancing backwards and forwards. But they're in the position where they can find some of those gaps, given the opportunity.
Cargoneths have made their way up some of the cliffs and taken out one of the bases there, and they've started moving in to try and take out some of these other players. There's a big juicy wind farm in front. Got to remember to spread those ones out, or we get juicy chain reacts, just like is it going on here, as all the winds self-detonate if they're built in at big clumps like that. Great to see them going down like that, and hopefully these Kargis can just pop up and see some of that conversion. If they do manage to even walk up there and get the next set of conversion, that's going to be a nice big chain reaction, but a comm in position for that juicy D-gun. Nicely played.
Looks
Demons
like
on the left-hand side, now charging in the opposite direction. And it's all well and good to scale as hard as you possibly can, but when the demons come and knocking, you'd better have some units there to get them stopping.
Some of the things look to be hitting that unit cap as well. Duffy on this right hand side is sitting at 315 or 315. He's going to be struggling to produce more units at this stage.
And so the Kings definitely do have to focus on those big, heavy-hitting units. Get yourself the ecos that allow you to support some of the stronger things, like the T3 Juggernauts, whatnot. And, oh yeah, like the two that are in the middle from Regeki. And then start pushing up the hills with them.
Regeki almost hitting his unit cap just with eco at 296 out of 315 possible units.
Just a casual block of 15 APHIS now complete. Gotta be eating those, you gotta start eating those build turrets that are out of range of the...
Let's have a look at the top right.
Big push coming up this way. We have some Sheldons backed up with Shivas and a couple of catapults coming up the rear. Com heading straight into the mix. Great D-gun. First D-gun takes all three Shivas out and a bunch of the Sheldons. Very nicely done. That's what you want to do if you're up against that sort of odds. But the catapults are still here. There are still more Shivas, and so we're going to be reliant on Hella's Com to do a hell of a good D-gun. Fortunately, the unit's moving away. It does get the catapult. The catapult was the biggest threat just there. The rest should be taken out quite nicely. Yep, good defense just there from the peasants.
Completely stopping that push with the commanders that they had available to them.
The skirmish continues in the bottom right of the map. No side able to do too much to one another. Some damage continues to be done to the king that took early damage, but there's been no push deeper in than the new T2 factory. The demons were cleaned up in the top left, and the game has partially stabilized as the players move into the next phase of the game. Even with all of the ecoing that Regeki's done in the middle, the peasants are actually slightly ahead on the eco front right now. It does swing a lot back and forth because of reclaim though, so you just have to keep an eye on it and try and work out what those low points are where reclaim isn't happening to try and tell where they are. But the peasants up by about 50% eco.
I tell you though, Regeki, he's building out of two T3 factories at the same time, and Juggernauts are coming out in sub 1 minute. So every minute that passes, you're up against two more Juggernauts, and probably the only thing that's going to stop them is commanders. It's even going to be tricky getting spam out just with that unit cap. So commanders definitely worth.
Yeah, Regeki seems to have chosen his spam units of T3.
Keep demons in front of them. And just march those Juggernauts on through. One of the things that you do have to bear in mind, even though the peasants are ahead by about 1,000 metal a second, the concentration of metal per player is not very high. If you think about 5,000 per metal divided by 100 players, then that's only a 50 metal income per player, and I know that it's going to be quite different. There'll be some with hundreds and some with only tens, but if you compare that to Regeki, who has a 1300 per second metal income, that's a lot of firepower concentrated in one spot, which means that the Juggernauts are possible. Though I'd kind of like to see them be Titans, because Titans best unit in the game that isn't Legion. And the only reason Legion has better unit is because Sol Invictus. Have you seen that thing? Have you seen that thing? Beautiful. Beautiful.
Composition you talked about is happening down the bottom right hand side. You've got demons in front of those 5 jugs, so I would not be surprised. We can see the lines drawn there. Regeki controlling both those demons and the jugs, but I think he's forgot to take the jugs in.
At the top right side, the hero comms that defended the last push against the Shivas and the catapults, all but one of them have fallen, and the one that lived did manage to take out the jug that was walking up that ramp, but there is a demon there who manages to take him out. That's all of the comms that were defending here taken out, and so more players are bringing their comms in to try and defend, and we do see more demons making their way up there. Jugs backing up, trying to stay somewhat cautious. You don't want to lose these to D-guns. They are very, very expensive. Got to get some spam in front of them to stop the comms from doing their comm things. But this is the smart move. A bunch of the Juggernauts are heading up on the left side. They're going to the area that was pre-cleared, and that means that they're going to be able to attack without having to run through the gauntlet. You can, if you have a comm on each side of the ramp, you can in fact degun the entire length of the ramp, which means that you can stop any jugs from coming up. But once they're already up the top, they can spread out quite nicely. We'll see how the march of the jugs goes as more and more of them come out. Does look like Regeki has hit unit cap.
Be reclaiming some of that bead power, I think.
We do have a pause, not sure what's going on there. But yes, definitely have to eat some of your own stuff, Regeki. You do not need everything that you have. If you want more jugs, every build turret could be a jug from this point forward in the game.
The other thing is jugs make nice mobile bombs as well.
Yeah,
that is space for new ones. Just throw one into a base every couple of seconds and keep replenishing them from the back.
One of the things we have seen in the past was a 4 Juggernaut push into the Kings. The Kings had 1/3 of the map, and the Juggernauts those 4 Juggernauts nearly managed to penetrate deep enough that their explosions would have taken the entire King's eco out. And that's
the thing, that once you've got this concentration, if anything can get to Regeki's eco, that's a big pop.
Yes.
There's a lot that's going to go off together there.
Looks like another jug might fall over here to some D-gun shenanigans, but with the jug seeing that and pulling back, does not look like it. Comms filtering over one at a time. And as we said before, as you pointed out earlier, Twig, those APHIS that were built on the front line, super cool that they were getting them up, but they are in a very risky position.
There's a demon in the middle here. Oh, it's going to get taken down by the static defense.
Oof.
That demon on the bottom side walking into blue has opened up somewhat of a hole.
And that's the thing. The thing about big D guns over here, that comm just took out 2 Juggernauts before going down himself. Great D guns. As I was saying, the thing that is really important to remember as a Kings team, it only takes 1 King to fall for you to all potentially lose.
And if you can get little units in that then get shot by their own stuff, it doesn't matter what kills their stuff, as long as it's dead, then you've got a chance.
So, comms versus Juggernauts right now. We have comm after comm sacking himself for those D-guns. And these Juggernauts have been whittled down from 7 to 3, but they did manage to get the APHIS that were built on the front line. If you're going to build those that far down, do build them in the very back left, in the very back here. That is a more appropriate spot for them than up here, because there is a lot that can get in the way of that very, very quickly.
And
If the
with
commanders
these
don't
games,
start walking forward in this corner, I don't think this right-hand corner is going to survive. There's not enough units in production right now. People still building aphises in 3 different economies in that corner. 4 different economies take that.
You can't
And,
you can't eco when
Commander's not
jugs are
being put
knocking on your
on-
door.
Yeah, commander
Yep.
not even been putting on the invisible. They're just sitting there ready to be taken. Good catalyst to actually set off the economy. I don't think the peasants are going to be able to stop this many jugs.
Well, I mean, when the
So,
peasants' response to this is to put down more advanced converters, I think that the
you mean more
peasants,
fuses?
the peasants might be APM stalling. As this victory march pushes through this backline over here, we do see that the Juggernauts have made ground on the top left of the map as well. Just the 2 Juggernauts and whatever units were backing them up have made their way all the way up there. There is a comm ready to snipe, but he is dancing, so I don't know whether he's being actively controlled right now or not. One of the jugs will definitely go down. It has taken plenty of damage, but it also dealt plenty. It's taken out one of the aphis in the high ground, and that is a huge amount of damage dealt in that corner as well, and jugs are marching down towards the bottom left as well. Does look like the jugs were cleaned up by D-guns in the bottom right, but that is still a lot of...
On the right-hand side.
Yeah, coordinated push coming in here from this right-hand side.
Oh, here we go. This is what we want to see. We just saw what happens if you get even a single shot onto those advanced converters.
Ticks on the aphis.
Oh, come on, push in just a little bit forward. Just remember, if you're sending a spam line in or sending little units in, just add a fight command into the center of the map after you've finished doing it. These units, if they'd moved just a little bit forward, could have potentially done a lot more, but we do have a huge amount of arbiters that have punched on through. That chain... Oh, no!
Across the map.
No.
Conversion was on the other side.
And this is what I was saying about one king falling
down.
because of all of the space that because of the kings do not have a lot of space. You can end up in a situation like that where Rageki's income just went from 1300 to 700, and 2 players worth of economies completely wiped off the map. The kings just dropped down by 4,000 metal, 2,000 metal, halving their income in one attack.
There are 4 jugs on the bottom left-hand corner doing work. One of the big eco centers and a commander that's just gone offline. So only 1 commander left. Sorry, 2 commanders left down there to do D-guns.
He's going to have to do a real good D-gun right here if he wants to make this whole section live.
Starting to come online as well at this point. We'll see where these jugs in the bottom left, what they can achieve first.
Does look like the comm is getting into position for a double D-gun. It does get the double D-gun off, but that is still 2 jugs making its way in, and that massive detonation, that was all the conversion. So you'll notice just how much bigger that explosion was than the other one. That is what happens if you control a Juggernaut yourself. It will go kaboom much harder.
Fake Duffy's economy just going down.
Oh dear. That is this is a problem with three economies fallen. The kings now have to do a complete change in their strategy if they want to live this. Juggernauts are coming through here, but they are hitting the beachhead that was established, and with a beachhead established, these defensive units are allowed because they are not in range of the opponent's bases, only of your own defensive positions.
The big challenge with the jugs at this point is they're slow and they don't fire overly quickly. So when you've got these coordinated pushes coming through, if they're not where your jugs are, there's a decent chance that they'll just be able to run around the whatever's left.
And that's where the demons come in nicely. The demons much faster. Great DPS for killing smaller units and just doing what they can. But I do actually like throwing the jugs just down the gauntlet because their explosions are doing plenty of damage, taking out plenty of stuff. But with
what I would like to see on the right-hand side is just some spam.
Yes.
These jugs, like you're saying, they're doing so much, but there is nothing in front of them apart from these demons.
Build
The demons will
spam.
get taken out quite easily by the vanguards. But the jugs don't really have anything to stop them.
If you're in this position, build your spam buildings, set the waypoints to where you want them, give them a general just all around the map after they go through the area you want them, then hand them off to the players that no longer have buildings or anything along those lines, but keep the build turrets yourself, so that you are funding all of it, but the unit cap goes to the players that have nothing left. That is one of the ways you can get around the unit cap problem. Does look like a big attack's coming in the top right as well. Actually, this is a lot of red spots. They're going to try and reclaim the fallen jugs, and that is always a risk of using them. Next big jug push is here in the bottom left, and this time I don't think there are many commanders left to deal with it, and they're coming through on so many different angles. Well, 2 different angles. 2 is many. 2 is so many.
I suspect those jugs in the bottom left are basically going to be the countdown to the peasants dying as they make their way around the map.
There are 3 comms making their way into position to stop this, and there are some really good D-guns available right here. But, yep, there was a great D-gun there. Get that second one. Yep, there it goes. And unfortunately, the top right only managed to get one of them. But we do have a Juggernaut now that is bearing down on the Kings, and we do have spam units coming in towards the Kings, just being held up by demons and Karganeths right now, that top right side.
Another good couple of D-guns there, taking out those jugs on the bottom side, and they look like they'll clear these up completely without too much damage.
Jugs, good units, but they definitely need some support.
And you can see the pressure mounting up in the middle. That right hand side, top right, is putting some consistent pressure onto these Kings. In the areas where they don't have any defenses, they don't have any bases left because they've all gone top, and they're basically scrambling to try and hold back the hordes at this stage.
I hope you've hit and record on this one, Prey, because I certainly don't want to have to wait through this cast again.
Oh, I didn't, don't worry.
Oh no.
There goes that build power again.
And as
I think as a king, losing build power is almost worse than losing economy, because you can rebuild the economy. Once the build power goes, there's no way to quickly get that up and running again.
You're in a lot of trouble when the build power goes down, and they just have so much bearing down on the Kings right now. These mobile siege forces are doing so much work. The Arbiters, the Banishers, the Snipers, the Catapults, just letting units get in front and firing off shots where they can, and just doing more and more damage as they creep their way further and further into the middle of the base. Demon getting good damage onto the Arbiter force right there, takes down a lot of them. But even with a huge chunk of them taken down, there's still 44 left, which is too
And this spam is just consistently putting the pressure on to find where the next gap is, get that vision for the artillery to fire in over the top. Working out where those priority targets are.
Yes, air is disabled for these. We would find it would be way too easy to kill the Kings if their air was enabled. Because you'd know exactly where to bomb, and the answer is the middle.
Anywhere you want will be successful. Big catapult push coming in from the bottom right hand side. 18 catapults making their way in. Unfortunately, they're walking straight towards the Juggernauts, which means Juggernauts will get the best possible engagements on them. But even still, with so many coming in, they're just blind firing back towards those APHIS. They grab yet another eco center, 2 of the eco centers, all the fusions and advanced fusions for the bottom player now taken out. And we're essentially now into a 3 economy race. We have a Rageki's build power and conversion taken out yet again from that top side. The units are just punching on in, even with all of that economy, even with all of that scaling power. Unfortunately, just not quite able to defeat the sheer hordes of units coming down on so many angles.
We're going to see it go. Here it goes.
I feel like these APHIS are incredibly durable for how many things have gone top next to in this game.
And there we go. Kings have surrendered this one. They did a great job at clearing up about a quarter of the map, but unfortunately just were not able to clear all of it out. And I think a lot of it actually had to do with that early aggression that the peasants put onto that bottom middle part of the map. Taking out that one player really did slow the kings down and change their attacks early on, and allowed for super safety out of the peasants.
Nicely done, peasants. I ate my words. I thought the kings had that the whole time. I was totally wrong. Probably
With this many peasants, if
unit
you don't
limit.
get and rolling relatively early, there's just so many players that have got economies rolling that when they start all pushing in together, it gets real rough.
Just as a point of interest, the damage efficiency of the peasants was 130%. I can't actually see the damage efficiency of the kings. There are too many players on that one. Let's start queuing up for the next one. Let's have a look at what people are saying in chat. Where did the 3v3 tournament go? I do not know. Will they start faction wars finally? I do not know.
It's been playing. I thought Factions Wars or the pre-games were on earlier today. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I know that the lobby was named that prior to us coming on. It's not on at this time of the day. I think it prioritizes Europe, USA time zones.
Got a discussion about grid keys in the chat. We've got Twig, who is a grid keys player, and myself, who is not. I run a big enough screen that trying to use the grid key interface is more annoying than it is helpful, though I also play very relaxed and don't rely too much on my keyboard. If I did, I'd probably swap to grid keys.
Comment there from Fractal King asking about metas that we've seen come and go with King of the Hill, which will be an interesting discussion point.
Yeah. If you ask Duffy, he is the meta. No, it has changed over time. We did see last week probably the new meta for peasants is just simply build units at the 8-minute mark and just everyone attack. And the kings usually don't have defenses for that many at once. It is a risky move though, because if you don't win off that first wave, you probably don't have the economy to scale and then defeat the T2 that I'm sure the kings would have at that stage. That's currently the meta for peasants. Meta for king, you pretty much just saw it. Good scaling, good amount of units. Unfortunately, capped out by the number of players. Now the lobby is a little bit smaller. We should see a better balance with a less of a lack of unit cap. I don't know, Tom, if you want to maybe start getting the next one sorted so that we can have some more people play as kings, some new kings potentially.
Yep.
If we could rotate them out.
Sorted.
And Raptor Crater is not the only map that we play on. We also play on Throne and Claymore that you saw at the start of tonight. So Claymore's got a bit of a meta for kings where you can get 2 fusions up and a bunch of build power so that you're spitting out spam and either welders and snipers or sharpshooters, I should say, or fiends of your Cortex. That seems to be the go-to at the moment for Claymore. And Throne. Throne's a tricky one. I've not seen 2 games that are the same from Throne. That's just all about teamwork, Throne. Trying to work your way up the cliffs and using spiders, Cargonaths, stuff like that. Got 50 peasants right now. Let's keep it at 9 kings. Question there, where can we see the live stream? It's on the official bar, Discord and YouTube. I am trying to find a link to the official. I could probably just copy it off my screen. There we go.
We're also live on the AllReasonNoLogic channel as well.
Yeah, if you want to see a player's perspective.
Drop those in there too.
So you're telling me, Prey, you didn't hit record on that one? Oh, that was a big one. Must be getting a drink. We do pick the best game from every week and throw it up on our YouTube and I reckon that one that we just saw might make the cut. Obviously, I thought it was going to go in the favour of the Kings, and the Peasants ended up taking that one out, and it's first ever plus 100, sorry, more than 100 players in the game, which was massive.
And to answer your comment, James, yes, we thought that it was going to be a king win as well, but the D guns were just too powerful. With every D gun, you were losing, you were losing 29,000 metal on the King's team. It is 29,000 for a jug, isn't it? Anyway, losing a lot of metal per D gun that was successful. And so without the spam, those jugs were just super exposed and went down to the power of the comms. If there was a greater unit cap and there'd been able to be some spam to show the comms before they could walk on through, I think it might have been a different story, but as it was, that was very well played by the Peasants. That greed certainly paid off for them this time.
What are we thinking for the bonus this time? Do you want to leave it about 50 odd?
Oh yeah, I was just putting 55 on everyone. Depends how many we get. It's still filling up.
As I can see that
mostly-
Twig and Tank Tom are going to be playing in the next one, I'm going to let them handle the talking until the game starts, and then I will jump back on in.
No worries, Tom. I'll leave you to keep setting up. Just take out the lowest chefs from the King, I think, when it comes down to the 9 that we stick with.
Yeah, I'll move them across.
Well, actually, Pray, you're still there. Oh, we could finish that conversation we were having a little bit earlier.
No, I'm resting
Nope,
my
he's
voice.
It's fair enough. It's tough to cast these for so long. They go for 4 to 6 hours, depending on the night. So let's check the comments that we've got here in Twitch. Few chats about the Discord. We do have channels in the AllReasonNoLogic Discord where you can talk as peasants and kings. Also, just jump on the Beyond All Reason Discord if you so wish, and I would definitely recommend getting on with friends if you're peasants and you're playing in those corners. Do that communism eco. We didn't see the best communism eco out of the peasants in the last game in the corners. Quite a few T2 labs when you want to just get the one out to start with, and then build up those ecos rather than everyone building their own T2 lab. It's a little bit different for the Kings. You do get the bonus medal off of claiming the labs, as long as you don't abuse it.
Anything that looks like a standard build order we're happy with. When you start doing non-standard shenanigans that questions get asked, well, realistically it's where things start getting removed. I think we should be good to go once everyone ready's up.
Yep, put a ring out there for everyone. Just Luna for the Kings, who has now left the game, so we need one more King.
Duffy just letting everybody know that cookie dude is a noob and that he could solo 100 players, no worries.
Just a couple people to ready up, and then we should be good to go.
We need one more King. Thanks for posting the rules there. I definitely need to be better at posting them regularly so the new players can see them. Very basic for King of the Hill, Raptor Crater. There is a 10-minute no rush. Peasants stick outside the lava. Kings stay on the inside of it. That lava will disappear at 10 minutes. Shout out to Chronographer, one of the AllReasonNoLogic members who set up that lava. Some nice tweaks. And he's also set up the recent update to the game, which sees lava tides. It's quite fun. I've played a few games on it, and there is a short that we've released showing you how to set that up. So go over to AllReasonNoLogic shorts to check that out. And have we got our 9th King? The other rule, Tom, if you can just finish setting up the Kings there, is no structures that can reach the King's economy. So you got those mexes near the edge. Don't build any agitators, rattlesnakes, or the like that can shoot those. Can of course kill anything with units that you want.
Looks like we've got a number of new players on the Kings team this time around. So we'll see how things go.
Makes me nervous. I mean, I have seen a few of those names. Mr. Fekri last week had a good game coming with him in the corner, and I ended up being the player that killed the Centurico with just some ticks, thanks to his help. All right, let's kick things off. I think I see a lot of green ticks on the screen. Next to all those pretty flags, hello to everyone around the world that is playing this glorious game.
Got one that's not ready.
Feel free to just spec anyone that's not ready, Tom.
There we go.
And we just had some, and a couple extras jump into Kings. We'll just move them out. Okay. Maybe we can get a lock on the lobby for the teams so that no one else can join.
I was waiting for people to ready up.
They're all green ticks.
There we go.
Look at being I must hit enter at the right time when everyone had pressed ready. We get lucky sometimes. So 9 kings in the middle, we usually cap it at 9 because there is enough room for each king to have 6 mexes, and then 1 center king that gets to have... whoa, something just happened and then didn't happen. I don't know if you guys all got that issue of the game just crashing straight away.
Yes. Yes, I did.
Pretty colours. Yeah, as I was saying, 1 king gets the 7 mexes in the middle. Leads for a good economy to be supported by a whole bunch of offensive and defensive kings around them.
I think we should be good once everyone makes it back out.
Yeah, unfortunately we're stuck with the people that are loading a little bit slow, which is totally fine. Just means we're sitting here with our thoughts while Twig forgets to speak because he forgets he's on a stream. A few more to go and we'll kick things off.
When you end up with this many players, you run into the struggles of human nature and some of those sorts of things. Trying to organize this many people can become difficult. There we go.
Reminder to people to ready up as soon as you're in these. So for anyone wondering, these are on every Sunday. Okay, so what you want to do as kings is go outside those lines I am drawing.
Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like we're starting to get underway as Twig and Tank Tom try and coordinate everything around the middle. Looks like we're going to have one player in the middle. Looks like it's going to be Duffy or fake Duffy, unsure which is which. There's been some joke at our expense, I think, or just a good time for Duffy. Either way, happy to see them having fun. Looks like Tank Tom's going to be in that top position and Twig is going to be on the side. Force vote start has been called. We do have one player, Skymar, who has placed in the middle. I would definitely recommend not being there. You will lose your comm. It will not be fun. Looking around the map, we're at a much more reasonable sized game this time. We have 9 versus 69. It's probably one of the best number of peasants we've had to date, not by volume, just by sheer number, if anyone else catches my meaning. And that means we're going to have more spots than there are. We're going to have more peasants than there are spots, which means that sharing that eco is going to be super important. Looks like the force vote has started. I'm going to clear up that mess. And we're going to get into this. Tank Tom and Twig, good luck as the kings. But I'm going to have to ask you to get out of the channel. Otherwise,
I will drag us out.
Yeah, exactly what is going on with the game. So for those of you that have heard this 100 times before, what's going on tonight? It is King of the Hills. This happens every Sunday night, whether it's on the official or on ours. That is what we do. We do enjoy a good bit of King of the Hill. How does it work? We shove a bunch of kings in the middle with a bonus. In this case, it is 9 kings with a plus 55 bonus. And around the outside, we have 69 peasants. The 69 peasants need to work together to try and crush the kings. The kings need to do their best to crush their own lanes. Usually we see the team which goes on the offense the hardest being the team that tends to win. From the peasants, we do have one nice eco spot in the middle. This eco spot gets access to those 8 mexes, and then it works to get as much eco going so they can come in and sweep the other players, do their best to get some early offense going and hold their circle. Any king that falls is a really big problem because you are 1/9 of the team. Any peasant that falls, it's not such a big deal because you are 1/69 of the team. Big difference there. Also, if a king falls, it's a direct line into everybody's eco, as compared to a peasant falling, where it's a direct line into a handful of ecos, not an entire everyone. Couple of rules: there is no air in this one. Because of how densely packed everything is, even getting a single bomber onto the build power of the kings would be enough to cripple them. Similarly, a couple of bombers into these eco corners could do the same. For structures, we ask that none are used defensively. That means not building things like your rattlesnakes up on these high ground positions that can shoot into the enemy bases. We do this because there is no opportunity to avoid building in these places. There is limited space, and so shutting down areas with unreachable defenses is a no-go. Beyond that, pretty much everything that has been left in the game is yours for the taking. One of the other big ones, a Juno does count as an offensive structure, so do not Juno anything that is not on your side of the ramps. So if you're the peasants, Juno outside the ramps. If you're kings, Juno inside the ramps. Good to go. So what do we want to see out of the kings? So the kings definitely want to get at least one fusion up by the 10-minute mark, preferably 2 or even an Aphis. There are different builds that allow you to do this, and particularly with the way that we've changed things to put a 9th king in the middle, getting these mexes going in the middle and having that person help move things around and help get things along, there is the opportunity to go a little bit more heavily into the offensive units and allow that king to help everybody out for the eco side of things. One of the other things to bear in mind, you can share you can co-op eco in the king's position, but you do gain 1500 metal in reclaim when you reclaim your T3 lab, so you have to balance whether or not that's what you want to do, whether you think it's worth it. Similarly, if you sack your comm, you're getting close to 1500 metal from the comm as well, so you have to base whether or not the early metal or the metal over time is what you want out of the kings. Looking at the peasant spots, if you're sitting in one of these spots here directly in front of the ramp, either units or defenses are a really good idea if you're sitting in one of these spots over here. Similarly, units, very good idea, and assisting somewhat in the defenses is a great idea. If you're a little bit further back, say over here, or then I would go with help teching the players in front of you, get them those T2 mexes so they have plenty of metal to go along, and then fill a hybrid role, get units rolling if you need to, and eco if you can. If you're in the corners, work together to get those T2 labs. If you have multiple players working towards one T2 lab, that's really easy to get out. If you have 5 players working on 5 labs, then you end up spending 15,000 metal. That could have been something much different. So the more you can help each other in the corners, the better. Now, how do you win as the kings? From our experience, getting a good T2 push early and completely crippling these sides over here, and then using those as launch platforms to move around the map is a very good start. You can also, if you're strong enough, punch straight on up into a corner, and if you take a corner, then suddenly you shut down an entire area that needs defending, and you have more attack avenues. Things that work really well in the early game are Jags and Fiends, backed up by things like Sheldons, the standard sort of stuff. Defensively, we also find that units like the moving Ragnarok, moving Calamity, the name of which has eluded me for a moment, great for defense. Anything long range works quite well. For the peasants, what's your win condition? Get in there early with units. If all ramps attack nice and early, it puts the kings on the back foot. Similarly, you can also just hold and let the overwhelming number of people scale, and hopefully scale harder than the kings. You do have so many comms that you can sack a lot of them in order to get an advantage and take out big expensive units. Looking into the middle, does look like we've got the first fusion starting to come down for the red player in the middle, eating the lab to pay for it. Lab's about to go down. You see this 400 metal in the bank, and that jumps all the way up to just shy of 5,000 because of that plus 55. That's plenty of metal to go into a fusion. That fusion should be coming up probably at the 6 minutes 20 mark, just based on how long it takes to get all that build power down. Looking elsewhere, Twig just about to get his fusion up, got the metal, doesn't have the build power, needs more build power. And this is going to be the standard story for most of the kings. Tank Tom doing a bit more of a heavy build into getting his mexes. I find that the mexes, whilst important, are not as important as getting those fusions out. Looking around the map at the corners, we've got T2 labs coming up in the bottom left corner. We have no T2 lab in the bottom right corner. There we do. Just one over there. It is getting reclaimed, but have the T2 constructors been sent to everyone? It does not look like it. Top right corner, we do have a T2 lab there. We'll see whether that gets distributed. Top left, T2 lab is in the bottom left side, but we do see some sharing going on. So we're going to have some reasonably eco-heavy corners, but nothing as crazy as we have seen in the past. Does look like we're going for a very strong unit push from this side of the map. We already have 68 blitzers getting ready for a super speed attack at the 10-minute mark, and with another 2 minutes to go, there are plenty more blitzers where that can come from. Does look like Regeki managed to get plenty of players to help, and it does also look like we're getting pawns to go with them. Anywhere else on the map where we're seeing similar things, we do have a stout attack getting ready down here. And if we zoom out, the best way to determine where all the attacks are coming from is just to bandbox the map. All the units that turn white are combat units, so we're seeing some down here as well. Good little mixed force getting ready to go in. So the Kings are going to have a nice amount of pressure put on them for this first 10 minutes. With a minute 30 to go, what do we have in the way of defenses? Couple of twin guards down here. But everywhere else is pretty light. Oh, actually, there we go. Oh, it looks like we've turned on some extra unit packs. We have the quad guards up here. Some twin guards going on over here. Some T2 defenses coming up here. And Tank Tom with the good old Beamer, one of my favorites, needs to get his metal spend on with 1,000 energy income. Can go straight into that Aphis. Is going to be finished in the next 20 odd seconds if he doesn't bottom out on metal, which he I think will. But it's going to be light on units. Thankfully, only a small force of blitzers coming in here, but won't have units ready to assist on the Regeki side of things. 30 seconds to go. Almost 100 blitzers are going to be coming down this ramp. This could turn into a short game right here, as the units are piling up across the map. Oh dear, that's quite a lot over here as well. With another 63 blitzers there, this is going to be a hard attack to repulse, especially considering that this player does not have a lab. They've gone into the double fusion with the defenses, which means a lot of their metal has been spent. They're going to need to pray for a miracle on this one, or some help coming from the back line. Not a lot of units ready at this 10-minute mark, and that is the lava dropping away, and we have a 4, 5, 6 pronged attack coming down, 7 prong, 8 prong, 9 prong attack coming into the Kings. I don't even know where to look at this point. Let's concentrate on this top section where we have a good amount of defenses taking out these units. These Dragon's Maws are going to be MVPs. Does look like a minor freeze here as everybody is moving around their large masses of units. Does look like this has been enough to punch through, and Aphis Enjoyer is going to have a hard time right now as units start streaming into the base. Plenty of them being picked up though, and this Tiger hopefully going to be the hero that we need, taking out a few of these, but plenty of them have made it through. Does look like that's going to be cleaned up on the other side though. Pink has not managed to get the units up that they need. The build power is going down, the conversion is going down, but a lot of those units did fall to it. The comm is out of position, and it does look like they're heading straight back towards Duffy. Duffy getting as many tanks out as he can to counter this, but that is McFurky in a really bad position right now, losing so much to that early aggression. And with Duffy having to pull units into the back corner, we do have this top left side, those units just streaming in now. Big attacks going, and it does look like there was enough on the top side to completely cripple Tank Tom. Too much greed from the Kings, not enough units, and if this build power goes down, their saving grace of all those Aphis is going to be a big problem. Does look like that's the pop. Does look like that is a lot of the last of Duffy's units, at least for now. Twig sending his units around to help, but units starting to push in from Tank Tom's base into the back of everybody else. The Kings had decent defenses, but not quite enough. As I've said before, just a couple of Kings falling can be plenty. Does look like we've got some confusion going on here. Not sure what the pause is for at this point. There we go. Looks like some units were built that shouldn't have been built. I think that's what it was over here. Yep. So those have been removed. Though at the moment the Kings are in a very bad position. They are sitting about almost 1,000 metal under what they need to be to match the peasants. And it doesn't look like any pushes have happened just yet, except for Twig, who's doing very well with these recluses, gets up into a T2 lab and is going to do as much damage as he possibly can. Retribution for the early game aggression. The good thing about the Kings surviving the early game is that there is about 16,000 metal sitting here that can be reclaimed. That 16,000 metal will turn into 22 or 23,000 metal, so all of those units that were sent in have been donations, and it does also mean that it does leave a nice big eco gap on the peasants side, because so many players went aggressive and haven't completely won. It means that there is the opportunity for the Kings to come back in a big way, so this one is not over yet. We'll see how it goes. Another big wave of units coming up, this time ticks to scout, some shell shockers to get damage in, and another wave of blitzers. And they're going to be fighting into Sheldons, but ticks very good into those units, provided that they can not fall to the slight AoE of shells hitting the ground. Pounders, a great counter to what's going on here, provided they can get into the path. If not, though, they will be too slow to mount a successful defense. The unit's getting cleaned up quite nicely by the T2 units, and I think that this is actually somewhat stabilized, provided that they can close that gap at the top. I think that the Kings are in a half-decent position, as much damage is going to start being done from Twig's Recluse push, and the rest of the players will begin to stabilize from here, hopefully. Orange getting on the offensive with all of those tigers. I think they've been donated from the red player in the middle to allow for this to happen. Yes, they have, and the spam going with them will just ensure their survival. Immediately, these tanks doing so much damage as they start plowing in. There are comms here, but unlike the last game where it was Juggernauts and Demons going down to comms, losing a tiger trading tigers for comms is a very cheap thing. Quick little comment: if you're going to build your wind clustered up like that, that is exactly what's going to happen to it, and even more so if you build your conversion attached to it. A couple of units go down to the comm, but because there is spam this time round, the comms are going to go down to the spam quite nicely. There we go. A lot of these comms being cleaned up and skirmishing quite nicely. Lots of damage being done over here, and the offense on the left side is very much so underway. And it does look like the offense from the top side has petered out. All of their metal is gone. So all Tank Tom needs to do is get those res bots up, get everything building, get the advanced fusion back online, and he should be good to go. Technically, it is better to reclaim it and then it is better to res it instead of reclaim it. Units heading on up, unfortunately, without the spam taking a lot of damage from those twin guards, but they have punched some of that defense through. And we do see the fall of Regeki in this frontline position, who led the charge on that front attack. So very good job there, but unfortunately, if the Kings do survive that push, then the peasants are in less of a good spot. I do love this, units coming from the back line. Usually these players scale, but when you are threatened like this, getting units onto the front line helps a lot. Twig pushing ticks out and getting ready for the next Recluse attack, also building up his favorite unit, the Welders. Don't know why it's his favorite, but it almost certainly seems to be, because he builds them every time. What is this? We have a Scuttle with only 4 HP left that is making its way into the base. Beamers have noticed it, but there it goes. Unfortunately, no detonation. If that had managed to get onto Duffy's eco, that could have been a phenomenally big problem. We do have a rattlesnake that is, there we go, that rattlesnake has been taken out. Please do bear in mind, do not use structures offensively. You can build arbiters over here or something along those lines, same effect, but the structure rule is in effect. push coming on this end, but with these Dragon's Furies and all the pop-ups, I don't think that that's going to make it through anytime soon, and because there is a Rattlesnake over there, it is going to pop these shell shockers as they go. It is unfortunately though in range of this player at the top, so that is a little bit too far forward, does need to be cleaned up. Just ping that for the mods if they can catch that one. And this player doing it again. Gotta bear in mind, you cannot be building those on the front lines. Unfortunately, because I'm commentating, I just kind of have to leave that one and keep apprised of everything going on in the match and hope it gets picked up. Twig moving forward with another Force of Recluse, bypassing a lot of the defenses. If this does happen to you once, it'll probably happen to you again. This comm going to be in a great spot to get some D-guns off, and the comm explosion takes out most of those, most of the second wave of Recluses, just the one making it through that comm. Good sack right there in order to grab that one. Looks like the defenses have closed in over here and picked up most of the units, and that is a lot of reclaim ready to allow for the transition. That's exactly what's happening. These units coming in, grabbing that 5,000 that could get you an APHIS and get you and secure you into the T2 position. Yellow is on the warpath, heading up this ramp. Unfortunately, these Marauders getting ahead of a lot of the spam, and so taking a lot of damage from the Pulsar, from the comms, and from the Pitbulls, so that T3 force has been mostly wiped out. I think by the time this is all said and done, there'll only be one of them left. Bingo. And that is all she wrote for those, just spam. Now, Twig going in with the third wave of Recluses, this one going for a different player. And that's what you got to do. You got to keep putting a lot of pressure on as you can. Do the damage that you can and move through, just taking out these players, taking out their safety, and making sure that there's no comms on this high ground to make it safe to move your bigger units through the ramps. Does look like the top side is starting to push back towards the middle. The brown player did a good job of getting the units they need to survive, but unfortunately they are not currently scaling. Oh dear, a couple of ticks have made it to the front lines. They don't quite take out the build power. There is enough there to heal it, and some good micro allowed for that to be dealt with. We do have an epic grunt coming in to close that gap. Extra unit pack is on, I might add. So we're going to see some interesting stuff. I'm actually following this unit because I'm super interested to see what it does, especially against these welders. I've only ever built these in games like Raptors, and that's not a good representation of what is going on. It does look like red on the bottom side is starting a big attack. Oh wow, they really take a lot of damage from those snipers. Not going to be the confrontation I was hoping. Big push in over here, but these torches, the flamethrower tanks, doing a good job of helping clean this up, and the pounders absolutely laying in the hurt. Really big amount of damage done to the fast units, leaving just the heat tigers and the banishers to retreat back so that you don't lose these big expensive units. Twig now using the banishers, using the recluses for sieging. This is definitely a decent way of they using their mobility is what you want to do, but they are also quite a capable sieger. They have good range, they have good firepower, but you don't really want to walk them into those dragons' maws. This is the danger though, when you get them surrounded by those pawns, they will take a lot of damage very quickly. That's what the welders are in there for. Good cleanup by Twig, and good decision making, seeing that this was somewhere that could be pushed. And Twig is doing a great job of cleaning this up. There's very little in the way to defend up here. If these recluse just keep pushing, they should be able to grab this advanced energy conversion, and hopefully that'll chain react absolutely everything else, but backing off because the tanks have come on in. I don't think Twig knows that's there, otherwise he may have chosen to sack his units to make it happen anyway. With that Razorback coming up, there should be enough to, if not completely destroy this, cripple the defenses, ready for that next wave. Orange still trying to make their way up, but too much defenses just over here, so just creating a nice metal patch. And we do have a big push heading on up this super defended ramp. Sometimes you have to pick different ramps to assault. Just because it's in front of your base doesn't mean it's the only ramp you can attack. And sending those units up somewhere like, say, this pink ramp may have been slightly more advantageous, though that being said, there are plenty of snipers there, so it could have not worked out. Looks like we've got a epic fusion reactor coming down in the middle over here. This thing should be able to generate a lot of energy once it's built, but while building T3 it's going to take quite a while to come on up. Big pawn push heading on down towards this. Lots of defenses here. These twin guards and quad guards helping clean everything up quite nicely. And it doesn't look like there's enough DPS to punch on into all of these constructors. They are nicely defended on the angle, and the spam has cleaned that up nicely. It does look like the grunts are going to now hunt down these sharpshooters. Sharpshooters are a really, really strong unit, but when you have pawns and grunts and things of that ilk heading on in, then they trade very, very badly. Just keep running them down. Do not let them escape. Big push over here of long-range units, going to be heading into a lot of beamers, a lot of pitbulls, and a couple of rattlesnakes. That is going to be a lot of damage because a lot of the static defense will stay out of range. Red heading up this side, trying to do a lot of damage with the demons, does manage to get some shots up here. I think the demon hit some conversion, which popped the rest of the way through the map. Comms getting in position to defend, and mines helping with that defense. Offense is heading towards the top half of the map. Tank Tom barely recovering and already under threat again. Needs to get some spam down. Is building that lab too far forward. It is out of range of his build power. Isn't going to serve him as well as it needs to. And his comm is super well exposed. Doesn't need the rest of his team to come in and help clean this up. Orange has punched up that ramp finally and is now spreading out and starting to deal some damage on this side, as well as keeping units back a little bit higher off in the map. The spam is doing a good job, but it is expensive, and it is currently mostly being taken out by welders. A couple of Razorbacks over here, but not quite able to do the damage they need to. Looking over at this bottom side, that attack mostly cleaned up by the rattlesnakes. Now we do have a big recluse and welder push that's heading into so many Sheldons. This is not the way. All these units are going to die to the Sheldons, I'm fairly sure, as the Sheldons are a great skirmisher unit, and these are not fast enough to catch up on them, so it's going to be a nice little metal dono to this player. If you're going to use that mobility, if you're going to build those units with the mobility, use the mobility. Send the welders forward to keep the Sheldons from going back, and then send all of your recluse up the side over there, so then they can take out those players and march on through somewhere else. Now the big army is going to push forward with marauders and Sheldons starting to make their way in towards the base. Bit of a push heading up here, but the units trading reasonably ineffective. They're just on move commands, which means that these heavier T2 units are just going to die to things. Potentially put those on a fight command, so then they stay behind the spam. Big chain reaction over on this bottom side. All of the banishes managed to get the damage done back here. They've taken out the spam wave for orange, and now the counter spam is coming. Thankfully, the counter spam is running through the most heavily defended point. They could come anywhere else, but that is where they have chosen to come. There are plenty of quad guards, plenty of twin guards, some pit bulls and dragon's maws that are going to do a great job of cleaning that up. But now we have good access to the Kings. The King's certainly in a bit of a bad spot. Duffy certainly needs to keep coming online and sending many units. He's got the APHIS. What he needs now is the units. He's got 11k metal and just is not able to spend it. The Super APHIS is now online. The entire team's energy problems have gone away. This thing produces 30,000 energy. It is 1/4 of the eco of the team. And with that online, some epic energy converters which produce 120 metal per second are needed. With all of those going on, that should be quite a lot. I think that was a self-detonation to free up build power. To free up unit slots. There is a unit cap in this game, and you definitely need to you definitely need to stick under it or you're going to be in trouble. Comment from the chat, someone is saying that the Kings have won this one. The Kings currently sit at half the eco of the peasants, or just over half the eco of the peasants. The peasants have done a really good job keeping the Kings on the back foot, but yes, the scaling has been allowed to happen, and we will see the Kings getting on the offensive pretty soon. The question will be, did these corners eco enough? And at the moment, it's looking like they may not have. Does look like Tank Tom has managed to come back online in a good way with a good amount of T2 defenses, but has lost most of his base yet again. I think those may have been given to him. He needs to focus solely on getting his economy back on track. Fiend push coming into Twig's base from the side. Does look like it is going to be cleaned up without too much damage. Just a couple of mexes taken out. Bottom side of the map, we still have units streaming in, but they don't have the big backup that they need in order to be a massive threat. The spam is now online, heading towards Twig's base, but he does have plenty of LLTs and beamers spaced out through his base, as well as a good amount of Razorbacks that are going to come in and clean up a lot of this. The Vanguard's just starting to get their fire solutions on and making their way up those hills. Should be a good opportunity to deal with this. Would love to see someone give him a catapult. The catapult would be phenomenal to take on these units in the bottom. One catapult shot will take out half of this if it is positioned correctly. The catapult is a phenomenally good counter to Sheldon's. Let's take a quick sit rep and look around the map while things are somewhat stable. Yellow is still getting their economy online and transitioning to T3. Red is online and building out of multiple T3 labs. Their issue is metal currently, but with plus a 1,000 metal, that's because you're building 3 Juggernauts at a time. That's crazy. We still do need more team conversion. These epic converters coming up very, very slowly. Full on metal, full on energy. The metal thankfully not being wasted though. It is going to the rest of the team because they're not all maxed out. Big push coming down. Tank Tom doing his best to get into it, but mostly focusing on spam. Really does need to be building, potentially take a section in the middle to build up. The Good A, the cream player, is most certainly struggling at the moment with that constant push coming down towards them, mammoth after mammoth, backed up with spam, but it does look like the T3 units are here to mostly save the day. There's just 1 or 2 mammoths that need to be dealt with. Twig balanced his eco and his offense pretty well, has destroyed a chunk of players on his team, but is just fighting with the wrong units at the moment. He's so concentrating on using those recluses and just losing them constantly to those Sheldons. Units coming over to this side to try and deal with the mammoths. We do have that epic that epic grunt doing a good job, but even still it is not dealing a lot of damage quickly. And one of the mammoths did manage to get into a lot of the build power, but thankfully not popping any of the eco. This one could be reasonably close, but with the demon there, it's going to be just fine. Looking to the bottom of the map, the maroon player on T2 still, a couple of fusions, a couple of Aphis, could definitely have a little bit more build. Oh no, is getting quite well. Plenty of res and reclaim in front of the bases if they want it. We do have a couple of big attacks coming though right now. Duffy, plenty of snipers to deal a lot of damage here, but without the spam, doesn't have the vision on them, so losing those snipers. This is one of the problems the Kings constantly face, is having to have absolutely everything at once so you can keep them nice and taxed. They won't be able to do that good little Razorback run through over here, getting a lot of damage done, but this is a big banisher ball with Heat Tigers in front, and so the Razorbacks are not trading super efficiently. With an epic bulwark here though, every one of those shots dealing a nice amount of damage. So many snipers up here just defending against those demons. Again, the issue the Kings are falling into, they have to have so much stuff on the ground to support their eco, but they can only have so little in the way of units that they are struggling with the spam. Not sure if there's a way to see unit cap anywhere, but I know Tank Tom did it before. Twig, again, more recluses and welders, just running into this ball of Sheldons up to 201 kills. Almost all of them T2 units, because that is what Twig has been throwing at them. King's really struggling to make it up the ramps and do damage. They keep pushing, and they've got the T3 units to do it now. But the economies are sitting at approximately a 100% bonus for the kings, and we're starting to see some of those T3 units for the peasants. We're starting to see some of those interesting T3 units making their way towards the middle. In fact, we have an epic tumbleweed that's making its way down towards the map. We will see how the kings deal with this one, especially since it's in a mostly open lane. One of the things I do want to just note, one of the kings has yes, we've got players offensively using Junos. Just remember, if you are a peasant, keep the Junos on the outside of the crater. If you are a king, keep the Junos on the inside of a crater. There is only so much space that the kings actually have. It makes it near impossible to deal with mass Junoing. So we keep that on the outside of the map. We allow for them to be used defensively. I reckon... What is going on? More Junos heading down into the kings. You do have to... There we go. Those Junos have been removed. Junos perfectly fine to be used defensively, but you do have to stop using them offensively, because you can just target the labs and shut down everything coming out of them. But they have been removed from the game. Thank you, moderators, for doing that. What I was saying before, if you are a king and you lose your position, one of the things that I highly recommend is to ask someone for something. It's very easy to get back into the game with a couple of build turrets, a couple of converters, and a fusion. Your income is huge, and it means that you can come back in and close off a gap instead of forcing the rest of your team to take it over. But it does look like the kings are in some pretty dire straits. They've ceded a lot of ground in this bottom side, which means they're missing a lot of their income from the rest of the map. I think they're missing almost 20 to 25 spots that they could be generating about 10 metal income from, which is a nice chunk considering that they are... Even though they're sitting at 4,000, they're only really missing 200. It's still a 200 they could have and don't. But a big push coming in from the bottom side, and this one is backed up with catapults. Catapults are the scary because they have such a long range. All they have to do is get close in order to deal a massive amount of damage, and with so many of them and with all of those Sheldons, the units like the Epic Grunt and the Demons are just going down super fast. Oof. Looks like a big hit just happened over here. I'm not sure what it was. Not sure what hit it, but that has taken out a chunk of Duffy's production. Thankfully, it didn't chain into his eco. But this is a pretty open lane for everyone to head into, and this is one of the reasons why you want to balance your T1 and T2 units. There's plenty of stuff here to kill T2 units, but there is not plenty of stuff here to kill T1 units. If there was a big tick push or a big grunt, big pawn push straight into the middle, then the kings would be in real trouble. Juggernaut's doing their best to hold the rest of the map. Yes, NG Wolfgamer, that does apply to, it applies to any structure. So structures should be used defensively, not offensively. So feel free to build your EMP launchers and your catalysts, but if you are a peasant, do not fire them inside of the crater. If you're a king, do not fire them outside of the crater. Oof, big boom over here as 2 Razorbacks make their way in, trying to reclaim the Razorbacks, but the Razorbacks are trying their best to take down that super fusion. Does look like they're going to get it. That super fusion takes everything out. That is going to be all she wrote for the Kings, as their economy just dropped to sub 1,000. Twig's still holding strong, but that'll only last for about a second as these catapults are starting to hit his Aphis. Invisible units making their way in, and Epic Karganath doing its best to defend, but that is Twig's production destroyed, and that was a very, very well played game by the peasants. Again, that 10-minute aggression is what wins games. The Kings were put on such a back foot with that with that early aggression, and they just never quite recovered. Very, very well done from the peasants, but also very well done from the Kings. You scaled your eco like crazy, but were just unable to get it fast enough that you could overwhelm certain players. Let's have a quick look at those graphs, because that's where the interest is at. Damage dealt. The Kings all doing quite well on the damage dealt. Metal produced, you can really see the Kings that focused on eco doing very, very well, and some of the peasants managing to match some of the Kings. Looks like Tank Tom and Twig have jumped into the chat. Tank Tom, you got very, very messed with at the start and were unable to, and struggled to get back into the game.
I just couldn't get going again. I was living off overflow for the rest of the game after that 10-minute mark.
And Twig, you did very well with the recluses at the beginning, but you definitely seemed to funnel into that tactic and were unable to, and ended up having catastrophic losses in those welders and those recluse to the Sheldon balls.
Yeah, just having to cover the other lanes was just too much. And I mean, I had always had the metal to build the units, and they're just a safe unit for me to build with the damage that they do, the welders and the recluse. Even though I was losing them, I was just wanting to not lose that lane. I didn't really have an answer. Having to micro against that many players, it's just a bit tricky once it gets past the first 10 minutes or after the no rush timer. So yeah, just a bit unfortunate for the Kings again. Another loss. And I think it's just coming down to those leaks that happen.
Unfortunately, so I'm going to hand off to you guys for the intermission and rest my voice for a little bit. I'm starting to lose it. Unfortunately, my housemates had a cold, and I think I'm starting to pick it up.
That's always fun. All right, I'm just going to try and reset my brain after full focus mode. That whole game is so hard going at King, just trying to continuously do as much as you can. It's really hectic with the APM.
I think I thought I had an extra 30 seconds or so at the start of that, and then wasn't quite prepared.
Despite me saying 2 minutes left or something like that.
Yeah, I had the beamers up on each of the ramps, but they had 2 full ramps of stuff come as well. That's all right. You win some, you lose some.
I'll let you talk. I'm going to try and set up a balanced lobby.
Yeah. So we're running King of the Hill again this evening. We do these every week. They seem to keep on growing in size, or at least that's what it feels like. So we'll start with, everyone around the outside. Eco as hard as you can for that first 10 minutes. Ideally, it's 8 or so. Get a couple of minutes of units and then be ready to push on out. We've noticed that it definitely ends up getting well defended with this many players on around the outside. But we've definitely had some solid games both ways across the time that we've been here. Twig's just going through trying to set up the lobby at the moment. Let me have a look and see what we've got for comments and things that have happened over that last game. Yeah, it does go a bit quiet when we're busy trying to focus on what we're doing.
Or maybe you want to jump into King again, unless you're a bit too flustered after that one. We got
No, I
Regeki and Outlaw down there. That's going to look quite healthy.
Can jump back in there if you need me to.
As soon as I said it, these good experienced players have just jumped down, so that could be a real difference. All right, we do have a number in there just like that.
Yeah, those incisors pushing in at the start definitely did a lot of work.
And we've just got the inconsistent IDs. We've got one or two more of these people, so make sure you jump on in if you want to experience it.
I'm just looking at the IDs. We've got 2 10s. What is the command for that? Two 10s, 2 1s. That should be it.
James Leo, first time playing the Cortex, and oh my goodness, the catapults made me feel like I was launching so many Katyushas. Not too sure what Katyushas are, but those catapults definitely do damage. They remind me of the Calamities from, oh, what was that game? No, sorry, not Calamities, the Calliopes. Calliopes on the field from that RTS World War II game. I forgot what it's called. Oh my goodness. Tip of my tongue. Someone in comments, remind me what it is.
Do you remember what the ID change command is? Because I can't.
Yeah, explanation mark for start name slash ID. If you want, Tom, I'll sort it out and you can take care of the speaking.
Yeah, so we're just going to try and sort out those couple of IDs. I think it was 1 and 6. 1 and something. And then we'll be good to go again. Once everyone else readies up and finishes downloading their maps as well. I'm still trying to get back to where we're currently at after that last one of being on the back foot the entire time. Where are we? There's still 2 1s.
That's right, I'll sort it out.
So hopefully we'll have a stronger Kings showing this time without as many going pop. It's been a while since I've had that bad a run going through.
You did a good job
so-
getting the spam up, but one of the things that I definitely have recommended doing, because there's such a limit to the unit cap, I would have pulled some of your stuff back and built in the middle behind Twig, like in between Twig and Red Duffy, because the game went on long enough that you could have re-established yourself with a couple of APHIS.
was definitely a struggle.
Just waiting for one more download and then we're good to go. Just has asked that we just be patient. Give it another 1 minute and then we'll kick things off. I'll just post the rules, but just to go over them. Very simple for Rupture Crater. There is lava around the edge of the center ring. There is no crossing that line for the first 10 minutes. Kings on the inside, peasants on the outside, and no structures allowed to hit the enemy eco at any point. You might have seen the last game, I got a little bit grumpy with the Junoing of my base. My ticks were the main defense that kept everything away from my base, and as soon as those Junos hit, that's kind of about when I fell. Because yeah, as soon as you're able to use structures to hit enemy bases, that is a good night. And we will lock this one up and get going. I think we'll just might spec that player and before start.
There we go.
Looks like it broke again.
That it did.
What we might do, Nightmare, is just put a lock on the teams. The force start does it. That's odd, because my last force start worked.
I think it's if we both do it at about the same time.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah.
I thought I said I was setting it up. All good. Sorry about that, people watching. I'll let you kick this one off, Tom, then. I'll stick to the talking.
I just got this cup more to be ready.
Seeing a few of the regulars down in the King's position right now. Some high OS in there as well as a mix of mid. Doesn't really matter what your OS is as a King, as long as you just hold your lane and keep expanding that eco. You want to make sure you have a mix of spam and eco going, and getting those tactical units out, the ones that can get out of the canyon, so your recluses, your termites, and then also just the stuff that's going to push up those lanes as soon as you get that T2 happening in big numbers. You can take control of some of those ramps and really push up to the sides. The east and the west is the easiest spot to push out as a king, followed by the north and the south, but those corners, given how many people are in each corner, they're a lot harder to get into. Depending on how long this will go, might be our last or second last game of tonight. I've got Regeki back in the middle. That seems to be the meta. Peasants, remember to start on the outside of the lava.
Ben, since you're wondering what the best tank is for Legion, that's good for a push, it's the Soul Invictus.
That's just your favorite Legion unit, full stop.
It's the Soul Invictus, I'll have no argument.
Yeah, when you can get to the Soul Invictus, they're definitely good fun.
First unit.
Now, you at least need to build, you construct the T2 lab, T2 builder, T3 lab, then you can build it. So it can be Unit 5.
I still get the sleep timer if I build all of those things. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be jumping in here and there over the course of the cast, and you'll still be following my camera, but Twig and Tank Tom are going to take the lead in this one, because my throat has packed up a little bit, and the coughing has started quite dramatically, so I'm going to be letting them do a lot of this.
We're still on our come downs from the APM stalls that we hit last game. We'll do our best to increase our words per minute in lieu of that.
Yeah.
Better smash out a Red Bull and get yourself off to the races. Give yourself some wings, whatever the old slogan was.
I'm absolutely confined to the room I'm in right now. If I wake up the baby, I won't be returning. Not out of choice, but out of being dead or alive.
One day, Twig is just going to be absent from the stream, and we'll never hear from him again, and we'll all know what happened. He played one too many video games.
At the start of tonight, Prey, now that we're back in the same channel, and I jumped in a couple there, we're talking about your road to OS 25. It's the series we've been running on our YouTube. That's AllReasonNoLogic. Where you've worked your way back up to, up to OS 25, which is kind of at the upper end of the mid and low OS lobbies. You see quite a few of those lobbies out there that are capped at either 20 or 25 OS. So that was your goal to hit that, and you got that in 16 episodes, about 20 games. And just to continue talking about this, as the 10-minute no rush starts to happen. So you recorded every win along the way. Are there any of those games that really stood out to you, or like types of games, kind of how the game went, that really felt best suited your play?
I think that there were two critical games. And I think that my journey from that point onwards got a lot smoother. So the first one was in, I think it was Red River Rapids or something along those lines. It's the map where you've got two sides and they're completely split by water.
Yeah, Red River Remake.
Yes, Red River Remake. I felt I'd made very good decisions on that, if not perfect ones, and I transitioned into a good mid-game attack, a good early game defense, good ecoing, but in particular some very strong decision makings. Building the right units for the right situations, and then pushing across at T3.
Speaking of, I don't know if anyone's seen, we did an episode on the Cortex unit tier ranker, and one of the units we argued about was the Duck. And
Ducks are bad.
With AllReasonNoLogic, where I love the Duck, Praedyth hates it, but that particular game, you actually went into a lot of ducks, and they were probably the real deciding factor of you winning your lane and being first lane one.
I can still have,
and you used them well.
I can still have the opinion ducks are bad, but even a bad unit in the right situation is a good unit, and the right situation was the fact that I had 50 ducks and they didn't have anything that could shoot things underwater. That was the situation. But yeah, that one I thought was a really good, it was a marking point where I became much more confident in my play, because I thought I was behind that whole game, and then when I watched the replay and I did the cast, I was like, no I wasn't. Then the second one that I thought was really important was I can't remember what the map is, but it's lava around the outside, and it's almost like a big donut with five passageways to the very center.
Yeah, I know the one. I don't remember the name of that one, unfortunately.
Just absolutely massive early game aggression, just non-stop early game aggression, rolled multiple players and pushed all the way back. This one actually played with Ollie. Not like we weren't on comms or anything, but Ollie was the top half of the map, I was the bottom half of the map. Ollie was on the receiving end of something similar to what happened to me. To what I did to my opponents, but managed to survive and keep us in the game while I rolled up the bottom half, and it really changed the way that I thought about bar.
Yeah, one thing that really stood out to me for that game for you is you went I think it was Cortex vehicles, and you went a good mixture of artillery and long range, the lashes, and you kept repairing. Like, you had the same army at the start of the game as you did like 25 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Almost every unit was still alive. You just kept repairing them with your commander, walking essentially with your commander as a mobile turret. And really makes a difference.
The big important thing in that one was that my front line kept dying, so I was building 2 front line for every siege unit, but my siege units always lived. And so by the time we were 10 minutes in, I had, I think, like 10 or 15 shell shockers and whistlers. And that's very hard to push into when you've been trading efficiently. But anyway, that for me, that one was a really important game because I'd been playing a lot of like cheeses and a lot of like eco stuff. But this time I just pitted myself on the front line against someone else and won. And so then I started, from every game after that, I started doing things like early ticks. I started doing things like pushing grunts or pawns or whatever.
Well, speaking of early ticks, you got really good at that. And I think to get to OS 25, anyone can really get there if you are consistently really good at 1 or 2 things. It doesn't really matter what they are, whether it's eco or... Oh, we've just got some rules being broken. That's all right, we're all sorted.
Yeah.
All fixed. Yeah, whether it's eco or whether it's, in your case, early raids and good micro of the units, as long as you're good at 1 or 2 things, you can usually get to about 25 OS before you have to start getting good at everything to get up into those 30s. So yeah, it was really like good improvement that you added those to your game. Also, you started playing Armada, which was a bit newer for you. Previously a Cortex player.
Funny story about that one. There was a patch that changed the grunt and the pawn. And I don't know where I think it's still like this. The pawn is just so strong at the moment. There's no point in playing. If you're gonna go bots, there's no point in playing Cortex because the grunt is just so much stronger than the.
Yeah. There was a little.
Sorry, the pawn is just so much stronger than the grunt. They did change it a little bit so that it was slightly more even, but even still,
I'd needed more build power, but that was offset just by building simply another constructor to assist the lab.
And you know, I'm talking about this from a low OS point of view. The big call for how that's going to go is going to be in the next big tournaments and whatnot. But I do think that right now, if you're doing something similar, you want to get your OS up, get very good with Armada bots, because you can trade efficiently against everything using pawns.
Yeah. Obviously, the series was about getting to OS 25. How do you think the OS system compares to other RTS ladders? I mean, I haven't played a hell of a lot of RTS, bars being my first one that I've consistently stuck at, but does it feel like a fair representation of skill, this OS system? I know we start at about 16.67, and then you fluctuate up and down depending on your wins and losses, of course.
I think the system is just fine as it is. I've done StarCraft, I've done League of Legends, I've done many games that have good balancing, and this feels reasonably good. The thing that is worth noting is that we spoke about this a little bit earlier about how 25 is a milestone. I think it would be good if OS had a breakdown like 0 to 5 gave you a wood icon. 6 to 10 gave you a bronze or something.
Yeah.
And then all the way, and like the brackets can get bigger and bigger, but a big shifting point is if you're below 10, it means that you've got a long way. You've probably got a long way to go, or you've had some really bad teams. If you're above 25, it means that you're mostly playing in high level games, and I think that it would be. I think there's certainly some like a graphical or a categorical identifier for that. I think would help people just understand a bit.
Yeah.
I also think that I'd also love to see some, like, they've got the scenarios. I'd love to see some scenarios which are specifically about building eco, specifically about building a certain amount of units in the first 5 minutes, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Just
I'd love to see a scenario where it's like you've got a time limit to go and win a typical
Yes.
lane, so it forces you to like use aggravators or rocketeers to go and push, otherwise the time
Yep.
expires and you lose, because
Yep.
so many players get in that habit in those low lobbies of get to halfway, put down some LLTs. Okay, now the LLTs start getting outranged by rocket bots. Oh, let's put down some wardens, etc., some long
Yep.
twin guards or some beamers, they outrange them, and it just becomes, until you get up to the agitator stage, it just becomes tower defense. And I feel that somewhat limits people's ability to climb the OS ladder, because they just get stuck into that mind.
Yeah,
I know I've been playing some unranked lobbies lately, and some people really get annoyed because I go for really random tactics because people just don't expect them, and that really makes a difference sometimes.
yeah, but overall, like, I think the system's doing just fine. I would rank myself at about an OS 25 player. I'm not good enough to be an OS 30 player, but I'm definitely an arm and a leg above an under OS 20. So I reckon it's doing pretty well.
I reckon you're spot on there. Like you definitely were the best player in those games, especially towards the end of the series. You're 100% the dominant force that managed to clear out players, and your lane was the lane that won most of the time. So yeah, nicely done there. So yeah, if someone's sitting around that OS 15 where you started and wanting to get up into those 20s, 25ish,
Watch your
advice?
Watch your replays. I learned so much by casting those replays, because I saw everything I did wrong. I saw everything my opponents and my allies did wrong, and I saw everything they did right. And then any time I did, basically for every game, I had two major objectives. Fix something I did wrong, and do something someone else did right. And we've hit that 10-minute mark, so the lava's dropped away, and we've got some offense heading on in a nice tick push from the top left side coming in, but they're about to run into hoplites. And Hoplite's very good at clearing out spam. They're plenty fast enough to run with it for a while, and they've got some good variable DPS, and a good call by the ticks going around looking for a new entrance, but they are going to be blocked at every turn along the way here, unless they can find a sneaky little gap, which I don't think they'll be able to do. Purple going for a nice rush of Helios. These tanks are they're basically like the LLT equivalent, but in a tank. Unfortunately, they're running into T2 gunslingers, so not gonna make it in.
Yeah, the few pawns coming up the bottom of the map, but running into sprinters. So King's been really well, kind of countering everything with exactly what you need to counter it with at the moment. Only one lone pawn getting through and then getting taken out.
Not a whole lot of pressure coming out from the peasant side this time round.
Just while the action is a little bit low, if anyone in the comments is happy to comment on this, did you prefer us talking about stuff during the opening 10 minutes that you've seen a few times before, or would you rather us stick directly to the game? Just let us know in the comments so that we can keep providing a good stream for you.
Push coming out on this top right side. Looks like the units are massing, and they should be moving. There we go, they're moving up now.
Oof, but that...
Quite a number of units there that's going to do some significant damage, and with the static defense, they're not going to be able to punch through that line.
The
They'll
biggest
get close. but
The
not
biggest
enough.
thing that happened here was that those incisors went at the 12-minute mark instead of the 10, which means that the rattlesnake was there, the extra beamers, the pit bulls. So unfortunately the window closed, and that can happen with just 2 minutes.
Yeah, the 10-minute mark, it's often somewhat dicey as to whether everything's completed or not. Once you get to that 11, 12 minutes, everything's fairly well settled.
I'm liking the eco that the Kings have, even better than last time we saw the likes of Regeki in the middle. We're almost even on eco. Slightly less number of peasants at 70. Still an absolute horde though.
Our last game was 69.
Oh really? The one I was in the middle?
Yep.
I was talking about the one where I was casting with you last time around. How was our eco at that same?
You were matching pretty well at this stage as well.
Yeah, okay.
Regeki is I think about 1 APHIS ahead of where he was last time.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's happened is you haven't had multiple players getting run in on. So for example, Tank's Tom eco was down by this stage in the game, which is a ninth of your players being down is a problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pretty unfortunate there. Really got to make sure we get units up as Kings before that 10-minute mark. I usually say Kings can start at about the 9-minute mark, just getting out a whole bunch of units with the build power they have. That's usually enough time. If peasants want to go for a rush at the 10-minute mark, you really need to start building units no later than that 8-minute mark.
Looks like some of these Kings are trying to do some scouting runs just to see which ramps are well defended and not. Top right's not getting very far. So everyone seems to largely be trying to set up at this point. Looks like there could be some pushes about to come in.
Not more of a stalemate. I do like what's happening at the bottom right. We've got a few Sheldons on the peak of the hill just trying to take out every turret. A number of units building up behind, so we might see a push through there. Unfortunately, they'll be running into an absolute bucket load of these Pharos light heat ray towers and the Dragon's Constitutions.
If you end up in this position where you're struggling to deal damage, as much as we normally say stick to one lab, grab yourself a lab that can build you units that can go up the lab, and then grab yourself a lab that can build you some super long range missile launching unit. Send a spider up each of these cliffs and then plant 4 or 5 missile trucks behind it, and you'll get vision of everything, and they'll just drop missiles on everything, and completely cripple all of the high ground positions. Ludicrously strong. And we see
spiders going up the top left.
We see it happening at one ramp at a time. Try doing it to all ramps at once. See what happens.
Yeah. It's definitely, if you team up... By the way, if anyone's listening and you have a group of 8 or 9 people, you can send us a message on the AllReasonNoLogic Discord in advance, and we're happy to tee it up that the 9 of you get to go in. So feel free to go and practice some King of the Hill builds, and if you want to jump in on a Sunday, we're happy to set that up for you guys.
Top right, the Kings are getting out. There's largely held by units, but there hasn't been enough. Spiders coming up over that hill as well.
Goes down.
So that's 2 comms that have just gone down up in that top left corner. Would love to see some units coming through behind to capitalize on that damage.
That's a cool looking dog unit. What's that called? The Phobos.
I do actually really like the design of those. If you've ever played the game Mechabellum, they recently added a hound-like unit, and it's become one of my favorites. And I get they're very different units. Don't confuse what I'm saying, but I do always love the hound units, particularly the faster they are, the better.
How do I this? I'm probably more of a Cortex player, but I do like Armada because they're just a little bit more fun with the fast units. Just even the Marauders. I just love getting some Marauders in early, like doing a Marauder rush and going down the top left there.
Solar Collector for the Legion I just watched one of those fold up and unfold, and I think it may have been one of the coolest building design choices I've ever seen.
They have done a good
Legion.
job.
Legion's kind of like the real artistic package bundled into a team. They're such cool units.
Just got another big incisor rush. This one managed to push in much further, and it's being backed up by these negotiators and tremors. So those units getting the scouting and the other units firing on in and doing the damage. I think these are attacking air. These might be attacking locations. I know that the tremors definitely are, but with the negotiators now getting line of sight, having marked targets, they should do a good amount of damage. Great way to get that sieging going.
Oh, some self-damage there. Just with the negotiators shooting back down when a single tick got through.
Yeah, you got to be super careful with that.
Looks like we've got some stealth units making their way around the place. I just saw one of them killed right in the middle.
Oh, could you imagine if they could pop all this stuff in the middle? There's a couple of epic energy converters in the middle. Those things go boom.
Mm-hmm.
Does look like we've hit the 2,500 metal mark, and the kings and the peasants are still running pretty stably along next to each other. Certainly helped out by the... it certainly should swing towards the king's side once that epic fusion reactor comes up.
Oh, the rat just went down on the bottom left. 2 commanders down with those explosions, leaving a single razorback there.
Very nicely done. I wish there was a way that we could give the peasants and the kings an equal share of the unit pop, so 5,000 each would certainly balance things out and allow for a lot more of the spam, but we do see those spam tactics continuing up the ramps. One thing that I wanted to say, so these negotiators have mostly been taken out by the rattlesnakes. If you position them here, right up against that cliff, it's very hard for them to be taken out. There's very few things that can fire directly down there, and because they fire their missiles directly up, it's no walkers for them.
No walkers, no worries in Aussie.
Did I actually say no walkers?
Yep.
Oh dear, I do try to keep the Aussiness out of the cast as much as I can, because there's certainly some weird sayings that we have, but it does sneak on in every now and then. It's sort of like if you're talking to a New Zealander and you hear them talking about jandals, you might be quite confused because in the rest of the world they're known as thongs or flip-flops.
Outlaw Elite doing well with his commander down the bottom left to take out most of an army comprising of snipers. It's, in fact, taking all but one out.
Very nicely done, and the tick's going to push on through and do the rest of the damage.
Real action though is happening at the top left now, with a big clash between the purple players and the maroon players, if the colours are all the same on both of our maps.
They are, thankfully. They do rotate sometimes, but it looks like we're on at the same schedule for now. These are Carakinos, a very interesting unit. They somewhat bridge the tier between a T1 and a T2. I'd actually consider them kind of a tier 1.5. Good firepower, but short range, decent mobility, but not great. And they have the ability...
push pulled by red.
Yes. Oh, big push. Big push. But
And that looks...
the spam's just a little bit behind those Razorbacks. The Razorbacks taking a lot of damage, and that Bastion is going to eat them alive.
Yeah,
Probably
whenever
the
you...
last ramp that you wanted to actually head up as the Kings. That one's the most heavily defended out of all of them. Only the one Razorback getting through.
No, not even that one. Not even that one. Looks like Jug production is now online in the middle. We have 7 Jugs either out or in production right now.
We can see targets being marked in the middle. Ready for those units to push in towards them. This green push from the bottom right hand side has had some vision given to it.
Oh, we've even got a mini starfall, defensive mini starfall out of the orange.
I love those things. Where's that?
It's about next to the Bastion for the orange.
We've also
king.
got a mini Ragnarok as well. Just below that. Oh man, those mini Starfalls are an absolute, like the Starfall as a building is an absolute joy. The extra units that give you packs that give you like the mini versions of the super weapons. Oh man, they're fun.
Man, I wish I built a meatball last game. Check out on the bottom.
I know.
didn't realize they shot like that. I would have 100% built them instead of all the Razorbacks I built.
It's
and
like an even
metal.
better version of the what's the tank?
That's great.
Oh, yeah, it's like
Yep.
the Tremor.
It's like a almost a better version of the Tremor. But it is going to start taking damage from that Arbiter. Good choice right there for how to try and deal with it.
I'm going to try them next time on the King with one of those, with the Armada team. Red building up again for another push. Hopefully they get a little bit further, but they are definitely up against more this time. I wouldn't mind seeing them pick a different entrance.
Yeah, I just go a different ramp. Look 2 ramps up. You'd be up against a couple of bulls.
Yeah.
And
You have
a couple
Epic
of
Recluse
Starlights.
coming out of the highest OS player in the game right now, Outlaw Elite. Now with 15 Epic Recluses ready to go and push up into some commanders that are awaiting their D-guns.
Yeah, you
figure out
need
which
some
units
sort of
first line up.
something in front of them to help with that, because T3
Some,
units.
Webbers would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Because they will stun. I didn't even realize how much they can really do until last game. I had a bunch of Webbers. I ended up just sending them in by themselves because I had nothing else. I managed to reclaim a T2 constructor and defend against everything that was trying to kill them just because I had enough to stun everything in its way.
Pink's trying to make their light pink is trying to make their way down on the right side in a big way. A lot of T1, but that T1 is jumping itself into 10 snipers.
That
10
T1 has been going down that ramp for a while now, and it's not making any progress.
Yes, when this happens, and you're not dealing any, if you're dealing little bits of chip damage here and there, you can sort of maybe argue it. But when you're just losing this much metal in a constant fight, it might be time to scale your economy, slow down the unit production, or signal another player, hey, I've got a boatload of spam, this is the direction it's going in, send your
I've got to
jugs
point out on
behind
the
it.
left, there's a bunch of stouts that have just managed to almost make their way in just to show how much health the stouts do. They're taking damage even from some T3s.
The
Unfortunately,
Mucade.
the demons managing to clean them up. I was hoping to see them get through and just do a little bit of damage and see a chain reaction, but not today.
Looks like the Epic Recluses have given up on their ramp assault. Oh, sorry, on their high ground assault, and are just pushing in with everything else over on the bottom left side. Huge amount of sieging firepower here, and there are and the simulators in front to deal with spam to hopefully illuminate all of those comms. This could be a very strong push, because as soon as the front line is clear, the Recluses can walk up anywhere into the back corner, which means that it's very hard to defend against them. You can spread them nice and wide, they'll deal a lot of damage, and even if the comms are there to degun, you're not degunning jugs, which is a huge amount of damage. Sorry, a huge amount of resources taken off each time, but they are firing a lot of their missiles at just individual spam units. You gotta micro them just a little bit. Does look like the jugs are now starting to make their way down on the right side. All of this spam is going to pave the way for the jugs. What have we got here? Junos.
We got
Juno's going off. Junos are okay on the ramps, but
not on
into
the ramps.
bases.
Junos are, if you're a peasant, you can Juno outside of the crater. If you're a king, you can Juno inside of the crater. That's the ruling on that one.
Yeah, we allowed Junos everywhere. You just pretty much lose all radar and vision that get out of spam.
Looks like we've got a coordinated assault that's coming in on the top side, the top of the map here.
These recluses are
stealth
really doing
units.
work though. Don't want to miss that.
Yes, the recluses are doing well, and so are the jugs, pushing with all of that spam. But the big thing is, killing this front stuff is all well and good. You've got to get behind. You've got to push these epic recluses into these back sections. You've got to get that fire onto the things that matter, which is the eco centers. Because even if you take out all of the front
demons behind.
Ooh,
Sorry
yeah.
to interrupt.
Oh my
That's-
god, yeah, that's just a couple.
43. Just 43. Come on, Regeki. Do your thing.
Huge amounts of firepower going through up here, but does look like, I think those might be EMP missiles that are hitting the epic recluses, which is a great use for those, by the way.
Trying to look for the tower that's shooting them out.
Anyway, the recluses are now starting to head towards the important targets. Hopefully we will see. Actually, I think it might just be the way they explode. Hopefully they can get up there, but even if they don't, the demons are going to do a great job. Meanwhile, the Juggernauts just working their way down their ramp bit by bit, and the counter assault, all the spam moving up. You do need to support those Juggernauts with the spam. Demons, though, demons are in here in a big way. This is one way to push. 45 demons backing up 12 epic recluses is going to do some damage no matter how you swing it.
I wouldn't mind
Good
just seeing
target
them
firing
taking
on
on the
this.
edge of the map.
Up on that top side, they're target firing to the build power, and that's the top base is just chain reacted all the way through.
Oh dear, building epic tumbleweeds is a very scary thing to do as a king.
Yeah, you don't want one of them to go down.
Looks
Had
like
their
the
defenses-
jugs have hit. The jugs and the demons have hit the high ground in a big way.
I am
Comms
nervous
standing
on
for
the
good
north
position,
of the
but
Kings, we've just had all the build power go down with just a few units. Thanos taking them out. What to watch? Sorry, I'm interrupting.
oop, what's going on? Oh, oh dear.
Second economy going down up there as well. And those units are making their way into the middle on that top side. There is demons around, but that artillery is just firing over the top.
Such a cool effect when those bombs go off, and
Yep.
there goes the APHIS, and we have a massive hole in the top of the map now.
And that central build power is now within range.
What's firing on the central build power?
It's those green units that have just disappeared before I can click them because Regeki's too good at his micro.
They
Clean
are Thanators?
Thanators.
Salvo rocket bots.
Yep. Does look like most of the bottom left side has been cleared up. Unfortunately, not quite taking out the eco centers there, the top eco centers while they were undefended. Now there is a epic bulwark defending up there, so some spam would do a very good job of clearing all that up. But the demons are just on a warpath, making their way around the map at this point. The recluses trying to follow up as well. The demons have done a great job. They're also pushing in the top left as well. And so we've got some massive... We've just had a quarter of the map taken out in about a minute and a half. So the Kings are certainly... They've taken a massive blow themselves, but if you look at the incomes are actually equal, and the Juggernauts are on the warpath on the other side as well. Unfortunately,
I
with
don't
little...
see Regeki losing this game with the T2 advanced construction turrets having the extra units packs on. He's putting out about 5 demons every second by the looks of things.
Good D-guns are coming off in that middle section. Oh, sorry, in all those jugs. Every com is trading 1 or 2 per life, but there is just so many jugs, and the demons have managed to push through on the other side as well. Just so much health. They're basically functioning as spam themselves. And we do have a
This is gonna be
Sol
the King's
Invictus as
first
well
win.
running up. This is going to be, yeah, this will be the first King's win of the night if they do manage to pull this one off, and they're in the position to do so. Just quickly looking at the bottom right-hand side, we've got a single
Juggernaut
behemoth
in the
advancing up the ramp. It is taking fire from everything. There are 3 pulsars, there are titans, there are Thanatos, and look at it go. It's at half health now, but it's been taking all of that fire for like 30 seconds odd, and it's still just going. Behemoths really are a chonky unit. And now that it's got its main cannon in range, there we go, it finally goes down to a D-gun, but it pushed everything back. I freaking love that unit. Juggernauts slowly being taken out, but they are getting into the locations they need to deal massive damage. If that front one just walks up to the edge and Control Ds itself, it's going to take out a huge amount of stuff. Com coming in, a resed com. Very good idea to res those comms if you can. Looks like it's going to get close enough to hit one of the middle spots. Nope, it has been seen. It's going to be taken down before getting a D-gun off. So that is a missed opportunity right there. Another com walking up, but not enough energy to be invisible, and it looks like the Juggernauts are getting to the spots they need to, target firing the Epic Converter for nice big damage, and then walking through. Oof, double big Juggernaut explosion. 3 Juggernauts taken down by what looks like a single D-gun. I think that was a chain reaction from low health Jugs. Nice work there, and again, this is the Juggernaut's such a powerful unit, but is very scared of those D-guns. Looks like the demons have made their way through most of the peasants on the left side as well while all that's going on.
Got your boys coming out of the middle. The Sol Invictus.
Yeah, best tank in the game. Woohoo!
The only push out of the peasants coming out of the bottom right with some titans, the second best unit according to Prey in the game.
Sol Invictus,
but
then Titan, then Behemoth. No questions asked.
And the very last, the worst unit in the game.
Oh, worst unit in the game's the Duck. I'm also not a fan of the stealth mechanics, but we won't get into that.
It looks like we're basically on cleanup at this point.
There's still a
can't see
very
the-
strong corner down here, and if you look at the eco in the bottom left, they're about to get an epic fusion reactor online. So they're not. It's not out of the game. Some of the eco centers have been left, but yes, I do think that it's severely severely king favored at the moment, especially now that the 50 remaining demons are now getting into the fight as well.
Hmm.
The
Yeah, at this
peasants have
point,
done.
Even if the Kings were to lose all of their economy, there's enough units on the field to probably finish the job regardless.
That I actually reckon is arguable. All the Kings have to
true.
do is really turtle up, because you can kill a lot of T3.
I do like the efforts out of just some guy on the bottom left taking
Yep.
a few commanders. He's trying to walk them in and just get damage done walking in, and maybe we can get to some build power. You could see an economy pop.
Unfortunately, he didn't let the units build up enough, and so the red player has been like, "Huh, I see lime green. I see units heading towards me. I see reasons I must go back over here."
Yeah. So you're not dead. Let me go fix that.
You know what would go well right now? Some sprinters.
I thought you were going to
Find the
say a
gaps.
hamburger. A hamburger would really go well right now.
Oh yeah, like night food, always the best. Some filthy Mickey D's.
Some filthy Mickey D's. Oh, I'm hungry now. Sorry, you were saying what would go really well right now?
Some sprinters.
Sprinters
into the
would
middle.
actually go really well right now.
The big part of bar is knowing the unit for the use in the game. Just because it's the end of the game doesn't mean you need to use T3.
So, just as
Sneak
a
the unit in.
as an example of what we're talking about, look at the top left side of the King's base, where Rageki's comm is, where they're building the next epic fusion reactor, where the T3 is producing epic recluse. if you ran sprinters in here, you could actually equalize the game.
Alright, as we're wrapping this one up, the consensus of the comment about our intro discussions is a mix is good. Only one comment responding to that, or a couple comments, so we're taking that as the answer from everyone. You don't mind what we talk about, really, which is good, because we just blab on to fill some of those gaps. One final thing on the road to OS 25 that Prey was part of. What's next, guys? What do you reckon?
Road to 50?
It'll take a long time, a lot of carry to get
Yeah,
there,
but
I think.
it's content farming. If we make the series longer, there'll be more videos.
I'll tell you what is next is Tank Tom's crack. He did join in on Prey for the few of the last games that Prey played and got a taste for it, and he's gone into it himself. So the next series feature Tank Tom.
Had a few wins so far, and hopefully that'll continue on as we
results. They haven't seen it yet.
Let's be honest, there's as many wins as losses at this point, I think.
Yeah, just about.
It's something like that.
But if you tuned in for my journey, you'll know that that's actually par of the course. When you start, you will lose more than when you hit your stride, and then you'll suddenly run into an OS barrier where you've learned enough that you caught back up all the OS that you lost and then gained some, and then suddenly you'll be back out of your depth again, and you'll need to work out what your next steps are, what you need to learn. And that's basically exactly what happened on my journey. The first half of the games were very mixed results, and then I came into my stride, and then and probably.
And you stopped playing glitters.
I mean, I stopped playing Cortex and started playing Armada, and when I did that, I didn't lose. So.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, that had more to do with the fact that before that I was playing at a sort of level, like a 20 OS skill level. Then after playing for a bit and learning, I started playing at a 25 OS skill level, and it just took a little while for my OS to catch back up.
Yeah.
And again, I think I mentioned this before, but the thing which changed, like the thing that changed, was because of me watching the replays. I watched my own replays, and I was horrified at how bad I was in them. And then I learned from it.
When I first started playing Bar, I was terrible. I was down to 7 OS, and then over the course of the next 6 months, got up to about 30. The biggest piece of advice that affected me, I can't remember if it was one of the original Drongo videos. By the way, not promoting that his videos are what to do, because they're very ego-focused. But one thing he did say once, which was great advice, was be the person that has the answer for the problems, or the solution for how to get through a lane. Like, try and understand the game a little bit more, and like the sprinters comment before, be the person that realizes, oh, if I do a quick transition into sprinters, I'll be able to run past everything. If you're up against catapults, you don't have to go at them with T3. Just some T1 spam can get around their feet and make a huge difference. And yeah, just have the answers for what you're up against. Pretty much know what rock paper scissors is. Have the winning cards, and you really will see your OS jump up just having the right units being built.
And as Twig closes out that sentence, we have the last of the peasants starting to fall over in this corner. Mounted a very strong defense. There is a lot of capability over here, a lot of epic bulwarks, but all it's going to take is a tiny bit of range to punch on through, take out some of those converters, and hopefully make this entire lot pop. I'm looking for a nice big explosion over here, and I reckon it's going to come from these epic recluses. They just need to get one manually fired shot off into the right place.
Into your typical Raptors game with this sort of defense on full metal plate.
I can't lie. I kind of really like doing that.
This one has gone a little bit longer than usual. What's the stamina like, guys?
There we go.
Last for another one. I might have to go to bed.
Yeah, I think this will be the this is going to be the last one.
Where's
just
that
need
home in that corner?
We just need those meatballs. They're just ticking into range of those APHIS, just to manual fire into those APHIS.
Yeah. Just did have a comment that does make sense in the chat as well. Need to turn down the battle noises. I do find, yeah, when it gets to this T3 phase of the game, the audio seems to take over our voices. You're not wrong.
So,
it is tricky to play with those settings though.
yeah, and like at the beginning of the stream, all the comments we were getting was that we can't hear the game. So
Yeah.
it's very hard to balance that out. I do have them as separate tracks in the what's it called?
OBS.
OBS.
Yeah.
And I do try and balance them as best as I can from there, but there are things which are very loud, like the Juggernaut lasers, or in this case the Epic Bulwark lasers.
Rageki's final assault, getting all those demons to walk in all at once. Where is the last king?
Right at the top.
Ah, it's up north. How annoying.
That's right, there's so much fight, there's so much damage walking down this ramp right now. The Epic Bulwarks will not be able to clear out all of those units. There we go.
Ooh.
And for, maybe we'll just delete that last com.
I think if there's still a mod in chat, it might be nice to drop, firstly to drop a nuke on the Epic fusion reactor in the middle, and then to drop one on the last com.
Yeah, let's crash this lobby at the end of the night.
Yes, that'd be a great way to end this one out.
That's a big explosion radius.
That's a
Look at
big hole. That's a big hole.
That is enough to chain pretty much everything.
There we go.
We must be all alone here. Nicely done, guys. Thanks, Prey, for commenting through all of those games. I at least got to keep my voice.
There we
beautiful.
go.
And that's frozen now for me.
Yep, the game ended on that one. Quick look at those stats. If you've got a 4K screen, and I'm not streaming in 4K, so they're not going to mean anything to you. Too small. But the big important one, damage dealt 19 million for the peasants, 13 for the kings. Damage efficiency 125% for the peasants, 62% for the kings. Metal produced 6.8 million for the peasants, 11 million for the kings. Let's just look at the graphs here. You're about to see a disgusting metal produced graph for Raigeki. That is probably more than everyone else in the game combined, if I'm being honest.
Shout out to just some guy as well, topping the damage dealt chart as a peasant.
All of that defensive damage. Nice work. Epic Bulwarks for the win. Alright, everyone, let's start to round this one out and get ready to raid someone, I would say.
Yeah, so we are AllReasonNoLogic people. Check out our YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. We'll just post those links in the chat of the Twitch. And then also so it can be seen in the stream.
As you heard from some of the stuff today, we do a lot of things about we did a road to 25. Tank Tom's doing his road to 25 at the moment. Once we've got him there, then we'll all probably start trying to move our way up in the OSs again to something even higher. Beyond that, we do this every Sunday, whether it's on this channel or on our own. And we also do a Wednesday night stream just on our own channel, and we invite anyone who wants to play with us to come then. It's a great opportunity to talk to us because we don't cast it, we actually play it and we'd love to hear from you. Any likes, follows, subscribes, comments, all that good stuff helps us out a lot. And if you're not part of the part of the numbers counting towards 50k for the official, please do head on over to the Discord, isn't it, that they're looking for the 50k?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do head on over there and help us get to that 50k so that we can enjoy that 50k event.
Yeah. We'll hopefully host a King of the Hill during that, which will, probably blow up our computers again. We shall say.
And a big thanks to Nightmare and Flo for being here tonight. They are the guys that have been help run this when they're here, and they do a lot of the things like the unit deleting, the weird and wacky things that happen on the map, and also just help us achieve this, making the lobby big and all that stuff. We couldn't do it without them. So we're always endlessly appreciative to them and endlessly appreciative to the devs that work on the game that we love.
That's it. All right. On that note, I reckon we will slowly wind this one down as we get ready to raid another channel. And if you are still in the game, it looks like there's a King of the Hill after party where it's going to just be a whole lot of players playing versus on even teams, no bonuses this time. If they get updated, that is.
You might end up with a plus 55 for Geki. That'd be terrifying.
I hope I'm on his team if I play.
Alright. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm going to switch us over to the end of stream title cards. I'll catch you next time.
Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by AllReasonNoLogic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires. Test out your micro and defend against multiple players in variations of this game mode. Or be part of the masses. Team up with your allies to topple the throne in a glorious victory. AllReasonNoLogic, hosting King of the Hill lobbies, most Sundays. Join our Discord to be part of the action. See you in game, Commanders. Beyond All Reason fans, welcome to King of the Hill by AllReasonNoLogic. Experience 2 or more teams facing off in epic scale warfare, where the Horde gang up on the Kings of the Hill. Kings start off with an economic bonus. They do their best to defend an onslaught after a no-rush timer expires.